The implied starting point for our forecast is now at 18 rands 35 cents to the US dollar. Over the medium term, we continue to see inflation stabilizing at 4.5%, with core inflation remaining close to this midpoint objective throughout. For inflation expectations, the latest survey results show average expectations at 5% next year and 4.9% 2 years ahead. This is still uncomfortably above the SAP's 4.5% objective and above our own inflation forecasts. However, all categories of respondents lowered their inflation expectations from the previous survey. We anticipate further progress as inflation slows, helping to re-anchor expectations firmly at 4.5%. While the forecast has improved, the balance of risks is assessed to the upside. Against this backdrop, the Monetary Policy Committee decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. 4 members preferred an unchanged stance, and 2 preferred a reduction of 25 basis points. In discussing the stance, MPC members agreed that restrictive policy remains appropriate to stabilize inflation at 4.5%. The committee assessed that an unchanged stance remained appropriate given the inflation risks. Some members, however, were of the view that the inflation outlook had improved enough to reduce the degree of restrictiveness. Global interest rates remain high, especially in the United States, and rates may stay higher for even longer than markets currently anticipate. This presents risks to the currency outlook. Domestically, inflation expectations do not yet reflect the 4.5% midpoint objectives over the medium term. While expectations are moving in the right direction, they continue to show the impact of the recent inflation surge. We remain concerned about administered prices. We have had to mark up electricity inflation for this forecast round, even as other categories shifted lower. Services price inflation also remains uncomfortably above the midpoint. The forecast continues to see rates easing into more neutral territory by next year. As before, the rate path from the quarterly projection model remains a broad policy guide, changing from meeting to meeting. Decisions of the MPC will continue to be data dependent and sensitive to the balance of risks to the outlook. We are committed to stabilizing inflation at the midpoint of the target band. Achieving this outcome will improve the economic outlook and reduce borrowing costs. Finally, we reiterate the views of the committee on additional measures that would improve economic conditions. This includes reaching a prudent public debt level, improving the functioning of network industries, lowering administered price inflation, and keeping real wage growth in line with productivity gains. This concludes the statement of the committee, and at this stage, we would take the questions. As usual, please identify yourself, hopefully on the platform, and we will take questions from 3 participants at a time. And hands. Okay, there is a question in the chat from Alistair Bull. asking, with the current policy setting, how restrictive do you assess sub rates to be? And there's a question about retail sales that fell compared with the month before, whether these suggest a weakness. Let's start with the last one because it's the...
So now we have it, the all-important repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. The Reserve Bank Governor, Lesesa Kganyago, even now taking a Q&A from his report, but we will chat to Kantipai right after this.
Every girl dreams of her perfect wedding. The venue, decor, rings, guest list, the speeches, the vows. Seeing a tear roll down her groom's cheek. The $1 million budget. I think there's a typo in the script, no?
No, carry on. It's $1 million US, Chief.
Bespoke Cartier jewelry inspired by Meghan Markle. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of flowers and multiple designer wedding dresses are nothing out of the ordinary for Lillian Chu, a wedding planner to the super rich in East Asia. She only takes 10 weddings a year at an average cost of $1 million. Channel your best jaw with the $1 million wedding planner this Thursday, the 18th of July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
And we will buy 500 cars, and we will buy 500 more. Just to be the one who buys your car, will come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So this is the National Pulse, and as always we discuss and we cover the issues that reflects the mood of the nation via this platform, things that move the National Pulse. Today, I think it's pretty obvious. One is the repo rate right now. Later on, the build-up is imminent ahead of the very first address by President Ramaphosa in terms of what is called the Government of National Unity, and how that will be and that will play out will be significant. Lots of other things to talk about as well. But let's get to first things first. So we know now the repo rate, 8.25% unchanged. Let's get reaction. Your thoughts are welcome. 0614 104 107 via WhatsApp. But then also you can call in 086 000 2032. However, let's get reaction from Kantipai, who's a senior economist at the PwC strategy. And Kanti, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
It's very good to speak to you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners.
I would think it's about time, but having said that, hopefully we'll have more. I know you don't have much time with us. Firstly, reaction, 8.25%. What do you make of it?
Look, I think one of the things that's very, very positive on this, that it says, these will rationalize next year, to sort of the more long-term average. But also, I think the votes are also positive because it says, there were two members of that MPC that voted for a decrease or a cut in interest rates, and four that said, look, let's keep it unchanged. So that is sort of gives us maybe a momentum towards a changed environment in terms of what it's saying. And then also what's positive is that one of the things I care about the most are these expectations of inflation. And he says when he looks into the, into the near outlook, those are also coming down to the 4.5% that he's looking for. So really we've got all the signs now that, there's a cut in the horizon.
And do I take it, for the average person listening to the show, one of their biggest issues around interest rates primarily would be around the fact that they would have a home loan or maybe a car purchase, and interest is affected on that one. But is it always the case that an unchanged repo rate or an interest rate drop is actually good for the country, as most people would think, or not?
Look, certainly I think it's better than actually an increased one. And I think that one of the things that is important here is, the expectations, because we can plan better. One has to realize that, many of us have to actually plan for the long term. So one has to look at and say, look, I've been holding, the belt quite tightly. but there is a sense where one thinks, I'm looking at my finances and I'm looking at things that, my employment is going to maybe have had a little bit of an increase, and I can plan in terms of maybe a lower interest rate going forward to actually ease, because a lot of people, a lot of consumers are under a lot of pressure. So certainly, unchanged is better than actually a hike. But certainly what we are all hoping for under the pressure that we are all under as consumers is definitely a cut.
Okay. Besides the 4-2 split, did the Reserve Bank governor explain, as I would expect him to do, in terms of their reasoning for being unchanged? The case for being unchanged and the environment that feeds into that decision?
He says that, because they're still very concerned about the risks are still very much on the upside. So even though the trend is downward in terms of inflation, there are still many risks that are on the upside. And he mentions, for example, one of the things that concerns him the most are the administered prices. And for that, we have a lot to thank on electricity prices. I think, Ashraf, you would have known that the ESCOM has said that they are, they may be looking for higher rate increases in terms of their tariffs. That's what they're going to ask for. And that is something that, of course, will contribute to inflation because it will go to the economy. And then he also speaks around, energy prices. We know that the instability globally is still something that's against us, especially that region in the Middle East that could still very much be unstable, and that could actually affect oil prices and therefore energy prices and transportation. So those are the kinds of things that are still of concern that he talked about. And then, of course, ironically, he says that the resilient economic activity in the developed markets means that their inflation will remain high. So they are doing very well in terms of low unemployment, doing very well in terms of economies that are resilient, and that's keeping inflation there high. And so even though our inflation is coming down, theirs is high, and that that means that they're not cutting rates and constraining us in cutting rates because we want to be competitive. So we can't cut when they don't cut, because then we become uncompetitive in terms of investors.
Okay, which then brings me on to the other part, which is the impact of the global economy on South Africa's economy. Did you touch on that and your thoughts on that too?
Certainly, and that's what I'm talking about now, that's the impact that is actually against us, that the global economy is doing well, but developed markets in particular are doing well. And that's what's keeping inflation there high, and that is what's also keeping those interest rates there high. And as long as their interest rates are high, it is going to be difficult for us to cut, because then investors will start to take their money to where the interest rates are better and leaving us, and that could expose us to a weaker exchange rate. And then, of course, the weaker rand means higher inflation. And that's something that's...
Okay. So that explains that link between what happens in global markets and in South Africa. Interesting enough, he spoke about... he gave a figure about growth projections, 2%. What do you understand by that?
Yes, well, he says, that's our long-term average. And he's saying, though, that, and I think he was signaling to the new government that, those reforms are urgent, because at that 2% we could do better if we actually carried out the reforms. We know we've been doing a lot of work on energy. There's been a lot of work that's been done on the ports and the logistics. So that is probably the signaling that you say, look, if you guys continue doing this, then we will see better growth. And that would be good for inflation and inflation expectations. Okay.
And I see also that he talked about the rand sitting, today, rand to dollar at about 18.35 and suggesting, that sort of level will be maintained, right?
Yes. I think that's a positive thing that we've seen. Is that that speaks really to the confidence that we've seen. We've seen a lot of inflows, people buying South African bonds, and that's because there's been that positivity that came through in terms of this new arrangement in government. And people perhaps are looking at that and thinking, that's positive for policy, that will be positive for reforms, and positive in the long term for the South African economic outlook. And that is something that is quite positive to actually look at and to think about, despite some of the challenges that we continue to face.
All right. Lastly, he commented on, consumer price inflation, CPI. What do you think about that?
That's very, very important. That's where we are looking at, and that's the comment that he is very, very close to our heart, that he sees that, coming down, even though it's been very stiff. And that's really the main thing that, as he comments about it, he says, look, they even though we see prices at above 5%, they see it coming down to that 4.5% midpoint that they're looking for in order for them to cut, and that looks much closer. And so that's something that's quite positive also, that's quite encouraging, for the consumer and for the rest of us.
Right, CI says a projection of about 4.9, and hopefully that will be maintained. Is there anything else finally that you'd like to share with us in terms of either what was said or your interpretation based upon that?
Look, I think Ashraf, we've lived through quite a negative environment, and so to listen to the governor today sort of gives us a little bit of hope that there is some light in the end of this tunnel, that we might see, inflation coming down. So basically, giving some space to consumers, but also interest rates, so that actually, because we are highly indebted, and so we do need the space that could come from lower interest rates.
Okay, I said last thing, but just the last thing. Interesting that the Reserve Bank governor, is actually speaking to us ahead of the inaugural presidential GNU address, right? Which does suggest that, the address would not have an impact on their decision making. If they were to have this conversation on the Monday after the address, would that have changed?
It would have, in a sense that it would have, they would have a sense of what kind of reforms that are coming through, and therefore the kind of expectations we can have, because that's what he keeps talking about. He keeps talking about making sure we are doing the economic restructuring, the economic reforms. That will be good for actually setting the economy on a more sustainable path, and that allow us to actually enjoy lower inflation because the economy is working better.
Of course, unless he's got insider information about what the president will say, and he's factored that in to that unchanged repo rate. Kanti Pai, thanks for your time. Much appreciated. I know you need to run. Thank you for giving of your time. Thank you so much, right? Senior economist at PwC Strategy. And, well, give me your thoughts. You've heard that an unchanged repo rate. So interest rates then will be unchanged. But how do you then interpret that for yourself? I mean, how much attention do you pay to this? It does affect you. There's no question about it that it does affect you. But again, how do you internalize an unchanged interest rate? Where if you have a home loan, I would think you certainly wanted it to drop even a quarter or a 0.5%. The trend has been upwards for a long, long while now. So even the unchanged, does that effect in many ways reflect a downward trend? I'll take your thoughts, I'll take your calls, whatever it is that moves you, the conversations that certainly move you on the National Pulse. I'm Ashraf Garda.
Nelson Mandela once said, "We can change the world and make it better."
It is in your hands.
Let's honor his legacy and make every day a Mandela Day. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
Right, make a note of this. July, as you would know, is Film Month. KwaZulu-Natal Tourism and the Film Authority welcomes filmmakers from all around the world who are attending this exciting festivities and its lineup. Now, the Durban International Film Festival, the Durban Film Mart, and the Isipetu program, that collective, right? Now, the Simon Sabela KZN Film and Television Awards itself is on the 20th of July. So, looking forward to that, and certainly the province is looking forward to hosting you and doing your bit for tourism and the film business. Join the conversation using the hashtag SSA24, and then Beyond Imagination, and the third hashtag KZN has it all.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, so let me tell you what else is coming up. Of course, it's an important day with President Ramaphosa delivering not so much a State of the Nation address, because there's been a change in terms of how that is being done, but it certainly is the opening of Parliament, in this case the 7th administration, but also it's the first one that is a manifestation of what we think has been agreed upon with this coming together of this multi-parties calling themselves the Government of National Unity, or the GNU. So with that in mind, we'll be doing previews, definitely so. And then there's also a special broadcast, an SFM broadcast from the opening of Parliament from 6 p.m. So listen out for that with Bangiwe Zwane together with Keketso Sachani. So looking forward to that as well, right? But it also means, the other thing, of course, the fact that it's Mandela Day, lots of talk around all the issues around Mandela Day and what that really means. And for you, I think on a personal level, as we'd expect every one of us, we all have our own ways of interpreting what Mandela Day means to every one of us. And I want to get your thoughts on that. That means, how have you, in fact, internalized Mandela Day in terms of the practicalities of it all? So think through that. We'll connect with you right after this.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Right, as we know, lots happening in the USA, from an attempted assassination attempt of the former president and the wannabe president to the issues of the health of the incumbent Joe Biden, and that position changes every single day. Listen out for this.
Good afternoon.
Delegates were still taking their seats at an Hispanic civil rights conference when word came that the keynote speaker had to cancel.
Regrettably, I was just on the phone with President Biden, and he shared his deep disappointment at not being able to join us this afternoon. He just tested positive for COVID.
Minutes later came confirmation from the White House, a statement saying President Biden was experiencing mild upper respiratory symptoms combined with what was referred to as general malaise. He'd fallen sick after this appearance earlier in the day at a Mexican restaurant in the swing state of Nevada.
We're just getting down to game time now.
Questions about his health have dominated the campaign since his faltering debate performance 3 weeks ago. But speaking before the diagnosis, he suggested it would take something more serious than COVID to make him drop out of the race.
If there had some medical condition that emerged, if the doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem. But I made a serious mistake in the whole debate. And look, when I originally ran, you may remember it, I said I was going to be a transitional candidate. And I thought that I'd be able to move from this, just pass it on to someone else. But I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. And quite frankly, I think the only thing age brings is a little bit of wisdom.
But calls from members of his own party for the president to step aside are fast becoming a clamour. The influential Californian Congressman Adam Schiff said it was time for a passing of the torch. And it's emerged that the leading Democrat in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, met Mr. Biden on Saturday in an attempt to persuade him to call it quits. Leaving Las Vegas for a spell of self-imposed isolation, the president was asked how he was feeling. But the thumbs up will do little to assuage many people's concerns that at 81 years of age, Joe Biden is lacking the physical and mental capacity to do the job. At a time when his rival is demonstrating what some see as almost superhuman strength, this unsteady exit speaks volumes about where the 2024 presidential race appears to be heading.
Well, my colleague Katrina Perry, who's at the Republican National Convention, has more on President Biden's COVID diagnosis.
Joe Biden has not had a good run of luck, you'd have to say, in this campaign so far, testing positive for COVID while he was on the campaign trail in Las Vegas. He had paused his campaigning because of that assassination attempt on Donald Trump. He wanted to give a respectful break. He took down some of his attack ads that were due to run on television and then resumed this campaigning in Nevada, another battleground state, yesterday and today. And he had been at an event, done an interview, and was due to appear at a large rally for a Latino worker rights union, and that was cancelled at very late notice. All the crowd were gathered in the venue, and one of the organisers came on stage to say that the event was cancelled. Joe Biden had COVID and was going back to his home in Delaware to be in self-isolation there now. The White House has put out a couple of statements on this, and the White House doctor saying that he only has mild symptoms, that he has a runny nose and a cough, and he's feeling well, and he's going to continue that self-isolation in Delaware while also carrying out his presidential duties.
Well, there are lots of considerations from that report by the BBC's David Willis. Now, what do you make of that? I mean, you have an opinion on, obviously the bigger issue would be back home, but you can't ignore the fact that, if the USA sneezes, we do catch a cold. To pick up from the Biden issue about what he feels, what do you make of the US presidential election and the positions, in fact, of the two men contesting for the presidency? They have different issues, different challenges. What do you make of that, and how should we be interpreting all of that in South Africa? You can also, tweet us using the hashtag The National Pulse. Just tag us SFM Radio on the X platform, and the same with Facebook. And if you're listening in, give yourself a shout out so that I can give you a shout out. Just tell me where you're listening from. Love to know that. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30 with Madubi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, the Reserve Bank has decided, as expected, to keep rates on hold, meaning that the prime lending rate remains at 11.75%. As the world marks Nelson Mandela Day today, rain-affected residents of Nomzamo in the Strand and Cape Town say it is important that young people educate themselves about Madiba's legacy, and Haiti's interim prime minister has announced new emergency measures to combat criminal gangs. I'll be back with the full news update at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound in Midrand has a stationary truck reported after Allendale Road exit, and the N1 northbound in Pretoria has roadworks with the right lane closed towards the R21 interchange, causing delays. In KZN, the N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 in Escort has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions near the Farrer exit. The N3 westbound in Camperdown has a stationary truck just before Umlaas Road exit, and the R102 southbound is slow moving near Old North Coast Road. In Cape Town, the N1 Service Road outbound has flooding reported near Sable Road. The N1 outbound has a stationary truck reported at Gilbeson Drive. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. Darling Street is closed in front of City Hall for opening of Parliament event, and further road closures and traffic restrictions in place around City Hall ahead of tonight's opening of Parliament address event, so expect delays. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, to me, there's football and there's a football merry-go-round. Either player transfers or coaches transfers. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you. Start things off with football. Chippa United have announced coaching changes for the upcoming 2024-25 season. Kwanele Kopo has been appointed the sole head coach for the season, with Thabo September assistant coach. Now, the pair were co-coaches last season, but now different roles they're taking up, with Kopo to focus on propelling the team forward, according to a statement that was sent out today, and September to focus on developing young talent from the Eastern Cape. Now, the club's management believes that these changes will enhance the team's competitive edge and strengthen its ties to the Eastern Cape community. Elsewhere, newly crowned European champions Spain have moved up to third in the latest FIFA rankings, while World Cup winners Argentina held on to the top spot following their Copa America victory. England moved up to fourth, leapfrogging Brazil after their underwhelming Copa America campaign. Venezuela, who reached the Copa America quarterfinals, were the most improved side in the rankings, rising 17 places to 37th, with the Euro quarterfinalists Turkey jumping 16 places to 26th. In rugby, Henry Immelman returns to the starting 15, while Abulele Ndabambi is set to make his senior Vodacom Bulls debut when the Tshwane outfit hosts defending champions, the Toyota Cheetahs, in round 3 of the 2024 Kaleng Currie Cup at the Loftus Versfeld tomorrow. The Bulls are 2-0 in the 2024 Currie Cup after 2 games on the road, and the two sides meet at 5 p.m. with tickets sold starting at 50 rands. Then in Olympics, security has increased in the streets of Paris as athletes arrive for the Paris Olympics, with the opening ceremony just 8 days away. And organizers are also putting the finishing touches to the temporary sports stadiums at iconic locations such as the Eiffel Tower. As far as athletes are concerned, they are arriving today at the newly built Olympic Village, and from SA's side, we do know that the Springbok Sevens left for the games yesterday. Meanwhile, Athletics South Africa's Vice Chairperson, Kesa Molotsane, says that she's quite confident that SA Women's Marathon team will do well in the 42.2 kilometer marathon at the upcoming games.
As we just checking back, Charles, we have really struggled to get women qualifying for the Olympic Games. For us to get 3 at this point, we are really, really, really excited on their behalf and wishing them well. We are wishing nothing but the best of luck to them. And obviously with the marathon that is upcoming at the Olympics, I think the 3 of them will have at least each other to at least run through the race up until the very finish. And hopefully we will all get a finish from all 3.
Well, don't forget that you can catch all the action on SABC Sport. Then finally, in not so good news, former Banyana captain Janine van Wyk has made an impassioned plea to sponsors, business people and the community for assistance for women's football in South Africa. The JVW assistant coach has put out a crowdfunding request as the financial situation gets dire. And as we know, so many teams in the Hollywood Bet Super League, which is the women's half professional league in South Africa, they're not doing well when it comes to finances. However, here she is just explaining how you can donate to her side.
Well, it's quite simple. People can just click on the crowd or back a buddy link that's linked to JVW, and they can simply just follow the instructions and donate as much as they want. There's a service fee of 40 Rand, I think, but you don't have to include the service fee, but just contribute as much money as you can, whether it's a 5 Rand, a 10 Rand, a 200 Rand, whatever the case is. Every little bit helps and goes a long way for the football club. But they can also then reach out on the social platforms if they want to rather pay in a lump sum of money directly into the bank account. If they want to have a bigger amount to have no one see how much they put in, they can also do it anonymously, but it's pretty simple as that.
So you can imagine, in terms of the teams in the Hollywood Bet Super League, just running a team is a lot of money. But from the women's side of things, just to give you perspective, each team only gets 110,000 Rand per team.
For the season?
For the season.
Okay. Right.
And it's a lot of money to run a full team. So you need to travel from one province to the next, nutrition for the players, accommodation also. So if you can donate, please do.
But I mean,
donate.
here's the thing: of in terms of football, which one of our teams, Bafana Bafana or Banyana, are the African champions? We know the answer.
Yeah.
Without massive investment, with investment that can be sustained. So you just wonder why.
Absolutely. You're looking absolutely ravishing today.
Well,
where are you from, or where are you going?
It's such an interesting thing because it's exactly what we're talking about. So You may be aware of Stars of Africa, the academy headed up by Farouk Khan, right? Who once was the youth coach at Chiefs in their glory days, by the way.
Yeah.
So they moved to a whole new premises, and they've got a school there, and I say literal school education, and as well as their whole coaching setup, and they have this formal opening at the academy tonight. So I'll be there, and I will probably say a few words as well. So that's why I'm there. Yeah.
Do enjoy yourself.
Thank you. I'll give you
In the
feedback on
spirit
that.
of Nelson
That's a
Mandela
very
Day.
important grassroots project that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Right, more sport in an hour.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Interesting one. I always ask you, where are you listening from? And we certainly get people around the country and some people from around the world, which is just great. Here's one.
And the listeners, this is Ngabs Eqibala. Eqibala is a locality or location under Tsomo, which is a small town or rural town in Intsikayetu municipality under Krisani in the Eastern Province. That's where I'm listening from. Molweni Bandakwethu.
Well, if you said Intsakile municipality in the Eastern Cape, I heard that correctly. You've put your town on the map, and that's great. Great that you tell me where you're listening from. I'd love to do that. Others can do it. You can voice note. You can certainly just text us if you like, both, in terms of WhatsApp, but do that on the social media platforms as well, so that we know. Of course, this is the National Pulse. Let's talk about the issues around the Ministry of Justice. Because there's changes there. We know that we have the 7th administration kicking in today, and the Minister of Justice is now Minister Thembi Simelane, and we have Minister Thembi Simelane on the line with us right now. So good chatting to you, and thanks for joining us in your new position.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to our listeners as well.
Thank you so much. Now, of course, we speak to you after you tabled your budget speech as well, so it's very, very topical. Maybe first things first, I understand, the budget allocation is 25 billion rands, right? Is that sufficient for you to deliver on your objectives?
Thank you very much. Well, from a request point of view, it is not sufficient, but you will understand the strain that the South African government fiscal position is at, which calls upon us to maximize on the little that we have, ensuring that we don't work in silos, we reduce the duplications, to stretch the rent figure. I mean, there's nobody in the current financial situation in government who has been able to receive equal to what they've requested. So we are not an exception to the norm. What it calls on us is to make sure that we put up a team front and minimize on silo work.
Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, I mean, that would probably be compromises. Therefore, perhaps a good chance to ask you then, what for you are your priorities as we enter the 7th administration?
Well, the key priority that mandates the department is to ensure that there's access to justice for every South African. We are mandated by the Constitution that this becomes our primary responsibility and mandate. So how do you access justice as an ordinary? It's for you to be able to have a good access to a court that is fully operational from an infrastructure point of view, a hygienic building, a safe building for officers and officials of the judiciary, that is your magistrate, your judge, etc., who are assisting in the chain of command in ensuring that you reach justice. But also safety for you as an ordinary member of a citizen who's attending court either as a witness or either as a alleged perpetrator and a witness who's a part of the chain of command. So that's our first key responsibility of ensuring that the branch of court management works and operates very well. I mean, just day before yesterday there was a kidnapping that happened in court, if you might have watched the news.
Tell us about it, very quickly.
It's an alarm. I mean, there were a business person who was kidnapped right outside the door. As he was he's attending a trial for a case, but there was external force which came and attempted to remove him from court. The other week, there was a stabbing of a alleged perpetrator who was stabbed to death in transit to the cells by SAPS towards the court inside the precinct of SAPS.
Yeah, I mean those are not
safety.
Yeah.
Those are not desirable. So those are things we need to see. The continuous work we've budgeted, for example, for boreholes, for generators, to ensure that the matters are not deferred back because there's no power in court and therefore the translator can't work, the transcriber for the judge is not operational because of lack of power, particularly in rural areas and rural magistrate courts.
All right.
And second to that, that ensures the safety of our domestic and sexual violence courts.
Well, I think that's very, very important indeed. Let's then talk about other things. I mean, one of the issues would be the issues of convictions, and therefore to expand on the capabilities to be able to deliver on convictions regarding criminals. Tell me about that.
Well, yes. Remember, we share responsibility of within the cluster to ensure once we have secured the conviction, correctional services. So there's always have to be a link between SAPS, ourselves as the justice and correctional services in one cluster to ensure that these law enforcement agencies were able to act promptly and ensure that crime is minimized, but also justice is seen to be done from our side. And on the side of Minister Grunewald at Correctional Services, inmates are therefore well taken care of but apprehended according to the period that has been stipulated by the judge. And we're looking into the safety within the entire network and looking into one-stop service centers where you have to minimize even the transportation of alleged perpetrators coming to court. So if you come into indoor court one-stop shops which are already operating within prisons, particularly the maximum prisons, so there is no car, there's no movement. It gets to be minimized to ensure the safety of the public, but also the safety of the environment and the minimizing of the cost, which I've just spoken about.
That's a good point. Let's then talk about another era, completely apartheid-era laws. I understand you have some strong views on that in terms of what you wish to implement or remove.
Yes, in celebrating our 30 years of our constitution, there is key learnings that we have made. But also there are laws which we still are working on in our Criminal Procedure Act, which are stipulations of what the apartheid era pre-colonization time had given us. And we're mandating ourselves as a department to look continuously. I mean, there were some that were repealed, but not all, to ensure that we still fight as justice for a non-racial, nine-sexes, but a community that is diverse, inclusive, and can be able to have social cohesion.
Are there apartheid era laws that particularly concern you?
Well, there's quite a lot of the laws that concerns us, but in the main, we're looking in ensuring that there is equal treatment for me and you in all of the laws that the South African law talks about. The small claims court in terms of access, it's still within the jurisdiction. For example, what you could claim for now, today, is still what was prescribed long time ago. We need to increase that threshold so that we reduce the alternative resolvement of cases. Not all cases are supposed to come to court. Municipal courts should still be reenacted, which in the old establishment, they were done away with. Traditional court, the president has just enacted them to ensure that they also will bring that alternative dispute mechanism. It also needs to understand the system of what is a South African or how does a South African and its values have. You hear lawyers arguing that it comes mostly from a Dutch-informed system, which we do believe it now needs to be more Africanized. It understands me and you, our culture, Ubuntu, our values and our community value of ensuring that a child is not only raised alone, but by extension, its community. And our laws still don't reflect that in majority of
Okay,
them.
this should touch a nerve. What's your thoughts on the anti-corruption project?
Well, there's quite a number. One, we've made our losses. You might have heard the opposition party correctly hammering on the issue of the tribunal, where we've lost the head of the tribunal in terms of dealing with the cases that the Special Investigating Unit, SIU in short, is dealing with, and the NPA with regard to increasing the number and capacity of ensuring that they prosecute more on cases and reduce the backlog of what is coming. We've signed even currently quite a number of proclamations that get to deal with what the Zondo Commission's outcomes, but two, the proclamations which comes from the day-to-day operations of government in terms of reducing of maladministration, fraud and corruption. So it's quite a number of them that are on the table, I think around 137, but and duly so being worked on in a day-to-day and increasing on ensuring that we get the tribunal functional again and process more of those cases and recover. If you look into our CARA, which is the fund that sits with the department, coming back from the proceeds of, which is linked to the Asset and Forfeiture Unit, coming from the proceeds of crime, maladministration, corruption and all that, what the state has seized, we have been taken back in the past financial year over 4 billion back into the fiscus, which is good work, but we need to accelerate.
And one of the things, maybe lastly, that huge concerns, whether it's, the whole criminal justice system, whether it's the NPA or others, around the issue of the capacity of the entire criminal justice system. And often there's been an argument to say we can't deliver because of a lack of capacity. I understand that you have very clear plans to capacitate the criminal justice system. Tell me about that.
There are very much clear plans. We are planning this financially about 400 community engagements, which will make sure that people understand our directly for justice services. To the NPA, for example, in the past financial year of 2022, 2023, they have recruited aspirant prosecutors around 300. We're going to do an uptake again in 2025. So what does that mean? The replacement of prosecutors is in full swing with about 300 enrolled learners who are going to be absorbed into the institution. So the specialized courts, all of them now do have direct prosecutors, whether it's a sexual offender court, whether it's a criminal justice court, whether it's a human rights, whether it's TRC cases. We all have prosecutors. Yes, one can never have enough of what you will need, but we are functional, and if we could be able to maximize. The area where we are still short and we need really to up is in lower courts and in the small claims court, where mostly of the business with regard to capacity is low, and it's mostly done by lawyers who are on pro bono after hours. And we do believe as a department is our area of focus for recruitment to ensure that the small claims court as well deservedly get what is supposed to.
Okay, and just the last thing, and a very quick answer on this one. You just start your term, but let's say we talk about this, we have this conversation 5 years from now. How would you then evaluate whether you would have been successful as the minister?
Well, the biggest cry is the support for magistrates, the skills dispensation so that they can be able to do their work. The second cry, which comes from our communities, is with regard to our master court. If we could be able to put systems thinking there, unlock the backlog, because what it means if you have lost a loved one, you are likely to get the proceeds of what are due to you on top of the loss in a minimum of 3 years. And we should put our heads together as a department under my leadership to cut that time. We have a relationship now. We are working on with Home Affairs and SARS for automatic registration of such cases. We need to be able to deal with and care for the victims of gender-based, our Situzela care centers. So there are 5 key priorities that I think will be of importance to me. The two have been mentioned, the sexual
Okay,
offenses,
let's leave it at that.
have been
Let's
prioritized, and I think those are the key issues.
Okay. Much appreciate you giving up your time, and I'm sure we'll have many more conversations around the issues of justice and constitutional development. So thank you for that, and best wishes for this evening as well. That's the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Thembi Simelane. Now, what do you make of that conversation? Let's get your views on that.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, it's Mandela Day. Many people doing their bit for Mandela Day. Not so much for him, but I think in terms of his vision and his mission and how we use that to uplift society. So many people doing that. I'd love to get your Mandela Day story. Please just, please WhatsApp us or even tweet us on the various social media platforms as well. So let's find out, however, what the team at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital are doing. My guest is Dr. Intabiseng Makhana, who is the project lead for what is called the Surgical Marathon Program. Okay, let's find out what that is. Dr. Makhana, appreciate your time. What is the Surgical Marathon Program?
Well, a very good afternoon to you and to all the listeners. So the Surgical Marathon is actually a concept that was started by the MEC last year. On this very day, on the 18th of July 2023, as a backdrop of saying that we had a backlog then of about 37,000 cases within the province. And there was then that directive that was taken out to say, how do we clear these? A brainchild then came out of it and it said, let's do surgical marathons where we pledge and say we want to reduce the number of patients that were on a backlog. Since last year, we're able to cover 37,000 of these cases done across the province. And to date, I think it was by March, we had 107,000 cases done. So Chris Hani Bara is but just a drop in the ocean.
Okay, tell me more. I mean, in terms of the, from the medical team and the staff, in terms of how you choose what to do around Mandela Day, and then how then do you measure the impact of it?
I think one of the greatest things that we've noted as the Gauteng Department of Health, there are three areas that are really high pressure. One of them, it might not be an order of priority, but our high pressure areas is number one, general surgeries, it's cataract, it's orthopedics, especially arthroplasties, which is your knee replacements and your hip replacements. That's where our pressure is currently. So we then say, in accordance to the pressures that we're having, let's then focus our energy based on that. So the criteria, there is two types of criteria that you can look at. Of course, there's the medical side of things, depending on the urgency, but also how long have you been waiting for that particular surgery to be done. For an example, we like to prioritize children especially so that they can be reintegrated back into the communities. But we also then prioritize those who have hip problems and knee problems. So it also has a multi-factor around it on how we prioritize these cases. But we make sure that each patient that walks through our doors as the Gauteng Department of Health, they receive the care that they deserve.
Surely you'd also want to sustain that. What I'm trying to get at is how much of it is this huge focus on the surgical marathon for the day versus focusing on required surgery every other day?
Absolutely. So today it's an add-on. So we do have surgeries that we continue to do on a daily basis. Today it's an added on. we do blitz. That's what you could call it. So a surgical marathon, you could look at it as a blitz, where we are saying, let's do above and beyond what we are normally used to do on a daily basis. So the other days, we still continue and we monitor and make sure that all the other surgeries are done timelessly and by the correct personnel.
Okay, and that's where we can leave it. Appreciate your time and certainly great work that you and your team are doing. More inspiration under the name of Mandela on Mandela Day. Dr. Intabiseng Makhana, the project lead for the surgical marathon program, also CEO of the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Now, thank you for your time. What about you? What would you like to share in terms of your Mandela Day experience so far? So, meaning, what have you done, or it might not even be you, right? Are there projects that you've been aware of, because you know about it, or on social media, that you have been so impressed with? And yes, it may be for one day, but you think even that alone is impactful enough, right? So are there these projects? It could be yours, it could be others. I want to know about it. What about calling in? You can do that on 086 000 2032. But if you want to do a quick message, WhatsApp, voice note, 30 seconds, please. 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. Here's a comment based on the conversations we've had.
Good afternoon. So here in South Africa, I foresee a tough time for the next 5 years because we don't have an opposition against the GNU government, because what we call an opposition, the MKP, we all know it does not have policies, has never held a conference. Therefore, to what policy alternatives are they going to hold the GNU to? And then when you look at the EFF, we all know they advance views that are aligned with who pays Malema and Floyd Shivambu. So if no one pays them, then they won't hold views that favor you, or they will hold views that favor South Africans until someone pays them. Otherwise, this is Aubrey.
Okay, Aubrey, thanks for that. So there are lots of questions in terms of the current leadership, the GNU leadership on the one hand. Then, as you're saying, no opposition, then throwing in Malema. Well, there you are. In a nutshell, as you said, tough time in South Africa. Best we get to the news now with Madupi Makhalamele.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garda. The top story is the repo rate to remain unchanged and new measures to fight criminal gangs in Haiti. A very good afternoon. The Reserve Bank has decided, as expected, to keep rates on hold, meaning that the prime lending rate remains at 11.75%. Governor Lesotho Kganyago made the announcement in Pretoria following the meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee. Kganyago says the repo rate will remain at 8.25%.
On the inflation front, the most recent headline print for May was 5.2%. This is unchanged from April and is still in the top half of our target range. The outlook, however, has improved somewhat. Headline consumer price inflation for this year is now projected at 4.9% compared to 5.1% at the previous meeting.
4 of the 5 accused in the Andile Bobombutu case have been found guilty of murder and kidnapping. The Verulam Magistrates Court has delivered judgment 4 years after the brutal incident that sparked outroar in the area of Hambanati in Otongati, north of Durban. The then matriculant Mbutu stole alcohol from his cousin Mlungisi Tabete's tavern in April 2020. Tabete himself was shot dead in a drive-by shooting exactly a year after his cousin's murder. The 5th man was acquitted for a lack of evidence. Some residents in Cape Town say they expect President Cyril Ramaphosa to address issues around crime in the city during his opening of Parliament address at 7 tonight. The event will be covered live on SABC channels. Concerned Cape Town resident Masood Goliath.
So the president is speaking tonight. There's almost more than 1,000 cops here. They're doing their job. They found drugs. But I want to know, why can't they come every day to look for drugs like that? Why only on one Pacific day? Why can't they come into our communities and serve our communities? There's people that get robbed every morning. I buy me a new phone today, tomorrow they take it off. So I work hard for my things. There's no cops that don't care about our community. One day Sir Ramaphosa said, whoever's going to be in town, the roads is closed. They're doing their job now, but we are there every day.
As the world marks Nelson Mandela Day today, rain-affected residents of Nomzamo in the Strand in Cape Town say it is important that young people educate themselves about Madiba's legacy. Hundreds of people left vulnerable by the stormy weather have received hot meals, blankets and essential packs from the Gift of the Givers. Amatle Dutoy reports.
Hundreds of people have lined up outside the Nomzamo Community Hall to receive much-needed help. Most of the residents have been left destitute following heavy storms that have hit the Cape Metropole over the past 2 weeks. One such resident, Simpiwe Manye, says he is grateful for the help since he has faced an uphill battle. He has also reminded young South Africans to never forget the legacy of the father of the nation. He says despite challenging conditions, the country has come a long way, in great part due to Madiba. Amatle Tutoi, SABC News, Nomzamo.
And Haiti's interim Prime Minister Gary Conille has announced new emergency measures to combat criminal gangs. He says these will help to restore the state's authority and allow the government to confront those he called bandits. Conille spoke a day after a second group of 200 Kenyan police officers arrived in Haiti to help quell the widespread gang violence as part of a UN-backed mission led by the East African country. More from the BBC's Vanessa Bushluchta.
Mr. Conille faces a daunting task. An estimated 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince, is under gang control. The interim Prime Minister has described life there as a battle for survival. He has warned that retaking control of territory will take time. But he promised Haitian police, who have now been joined by 400 Kenyan officers, would drive out the gangs house by house, neighbourhood by neighbourhood. 500,000 Haitians have been displaced by the gang violence.
Recapping the top story at 4, the Reserve Bank has decided, as expected, to keep rates on hold, meaning that the prime lending rate remains at 11.75%. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemeli.
In sports, Lucanio looking forward to Test return, and Stellies vow to keep most of the key players ahead of a demanding season. More details at 4:30.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Here he comes. Hello, guys. You're so dramatic. Hey, bro, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit, the leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge. Wow, now that is extra.
Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X-Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063-408-8863 and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Sandton has a crash reported after Colette Drive exit. Main Road northbound in Bryanston has a crash before Robin Road. Swartkoppies Road westbound in Alberton is slow moving at the R59 highway. The N1 northbound in Midrand has a stationary truck after Allendale Road exit, and SKM Pachleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle after Spaghetti Junction. The M13 eastbound in Hillcrest has a crash near near Kasi Road. The N3 eastbound in Pinetown is slow moving at Marion Hill Toll Plaza, and the N3 westbound in Camperdown has a stationary truck reported before the Umlaas Road exit. In Cape Town, on Saturday, the 20th of July, Huguenot Tunnel will be closed to all traffic from 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. for maintenance works. The N7 checks Hadville Drive as protest action reported at Voortrekker Road. The N1 outbound has a stationary truck reported at Gilbeson Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and 35th Avenue southbound in Bishop Levers has flooding reported. The road has been closed. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
There's essentially two big...
You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
There's essentially two big threads to today's show that really connects us to the National Pulse. One is the opening of Parliament and the goings on and the previews before that, and we'll certainly reflect all of that, not just on this show, but on the special SFM broadcast coming up after, from 6 o'clock, 6 to 7 itself. So listen out for that. The other is Mandela Day, and I've asked you to comment on what you've done or what you know others have done for Mandela Day, individuals, organizations, NGOs, businesses. Has anything really, really impressed you today in terms of the projects done in the name of Mandela? So hashtag Mandela Day. If that's the case, I would love to know. How about you calling in and telling me about it so that I know, right? 086 000 2032, right? With that in mind, we'll chat later on to Chefs with Compassion. Looking forward to that conversation around Mandela Day. But let's start with the Progressive Caucus press conference that I understand happened today. This is ahead of the opening of Parliament later on this evening. So let's get an update on that with the SABC News reporter, Ntebo Mokobo. Good chatting to you. You're on the National Pulse. Ntebo, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners. I'm sorry, I'm on the streets of Cape Town.
Well, no apologies for that.
It's a bit noisy.
No, that's fine. Can't pick up the noise. I know it's very windy there today, so I've been aware of it, right? First things first, so which political parties attended and made up the Progressive Caucus conference today?
Well, you would recall that, there are 5 political parties that are not part of the Government of National Unity. That is the MK Party, the EFF, the ATM, the NCC, that is the National Coloured Congress, and the UAT. So there are 5 political parties that belong to the Progressive Caucus. Those are the ones who attended the briefing. They are leaders, in fact.
Okay, so that means so whoever is part of it, they were all represented, right? What emerged from that press conference?
Well, what came out is that they say they're going to be a formidable opposition bloc in the Government of National Unity. You would recall, Ashraf, that they've got only 102 seats, and that's the question that I posed to them, that at some point in the 6th administration, they had around the opposition benches were occupied by around 170 MPs. But this time around, the opposition benches are occupied by around 102. So it's a serious decline in terms of the formidability of the opposition bloc in the National Assembly. I asked them how formidable are they going to be, and they said they're going to make sure that they keep the national government, the Government of National Unity on check. They're going to hold them accountable. And of course, one thing again that came out is that they're going to push ahead with the revival of the impeachment of the president when it comes to Phala Phala. And of course, they would again push the normal aspirations of the nationalization of the mines, the nationalization of the Reserve Bank, and of course, again, continue to champion what they're saying is the cause of the black and the landless black people.
Okay. I understand as well, Dr. John Slope, very much part of that Progressive Caucus. He spoke and he said this.
The Government of National Unity, since it is a mere executive for the management of the common affairs of the white and near-colonial bourgeoisie. minimum program, we shall join unite in action to ensure that the 7th Parliament achieves the following. 1. Revival of the amendment of the Constitution to achieve expropriation of land without compensation for equal distribution. 2. Revival of the Phala impeachment process to hold the sitting president accountable for all reported abuses of power in terms of the Constitution and the laws of this country. 3. We shall propose bills to legislate the following, among others: 1. Insourcing of security guards, cleaners and other general workers in government departments and related entities. B. Provision of free sanitary towels for the poor. C. Nationalization of the South African Reserve Bank. D. Repeal of all apartheid laws. E. Introduction of a foreign agents bill. F. Cancelling of student debts. 4. We shall propose the following parliamentary inquiries. A. An inquiry into rand manipulation. B. Inquiry into sexual abuses of inmates in prison. And C. Conditions and remunerations of farm and domestic workers. In conclusion, although the Progressive Caucus is formed in the context of the 7th Parliament, it will not be limited to Parliament as a forum to achieve its objectives.
Okay, so interesting things that he said. Perhaps from your side, you may want to pick up on some of those comments that he made in Tebo.
Well, all those promises or all those suggestions that they are putting on the table, they are not new. This is what the EFF, in fact, that is what was central to the EFF formation. But the interesting thing is that everything seems to be exciting, and everyone can be excitable about what they want to achieve. But you need a majority to achieve all those things. We remember at some point there was Section 25 of the Constitution that was to be amended in Parliament. That proposal or the mooted amendment of the Constitution, when it comes to that, it got some majority. But remember, they didn't agree when it comes to some of the controversial aspects of the amendment of Section 25. That's why it didn't see the light of day. Only the majority, they only got the majority in terms of people who agree to sort of amend that Section 25 of the Constitution. But when it comes to the realization of the full amendment of Section 25, that didn't happen. So you can say all sorts of things, but for everything that you're saying in Parliament to be realizable, you need a substantial majority, that is 2/3 majority. So they can talk about the nationalization of the mines. You need 2/3 majority to do that. You can talk about the Constitution that is Afrocentric. You need someone who's going to buy into that. So with the majority that they have, that is around 102 MPs in Parliament, I don't think that is really feasible. I don't think that can really be realizable in terms of seeing it through. So it's very interesting to see how are they going to really make sure that that happens. And one question that, again, we posed was that how do they see this government of the government of national unity?
Yeah.
You recall, Ashraf, it's like we're in the sense of deja vu. In 1994, we had the same government of national unity. And again, when President Mandela opened that parliament, it was here at the Cape Town City Hall. And again, today it's happening here at the Cape Town City Hall. So we asked them, how is this, the durability of this the government of national unity, how is it going to turn out? And they say that it will be miraculous that this thing lasts for over a year, because all those political parties are politically and ideologically in contrast with each other's political and ideological perspective. So they're saying that it's not going to last, that thing. But you can even see that that one, indeed, it's likely to happen, because, if you look in Gauteng, they couldn't agree in some of the things. if you look at the constitution of this government of national unity, it just took long for it to happen because ideologically some of them they didn't even agree, politically some of them didn't even agree. So the longevity of this GNU is something that will be watched.
Did this grouping, excuse me, the Progressive Caucus, the Progressive Caucus itself, did they give a sense of how they would be voting and tackling issues? You know, would it always be a collective, or would it be left to the conscience of each party when voting time comes up?
Well, they will do that collectively because they call themselves the Progressive, so it will be an opposition bloc, and all of them they seem to be like-minded. But the only thing that then that will happen is that they need to lobby other political parties. For instance, the UDM, which is part of the GNU, the PAC, which is part of the GNU, and they say they were very disappointed, and they believe that they were those political parties that they were working with initially, they have sold out. So they will be at the mercy of those political parties to support them when they moot something in Parliament and when they want that thing to be voted or when they want anything that they want to see as change in Parliament.
All right. Lastly, they made the point about maybe the short life of the GNU, for example. But did they convince you and the others about the long life of the Progressive Caucus? Meaning that, as you would be aware, from day one, already a few parties had left them within like a couple of days or a few hours of each other, right?
Well, they didn't really convince us in terms of how this progressive caucus is going to pan out like in the next or in a foreseeable future. But they believe that they are like-minded parties. There is nothing really that sets them apart except to say that they all believe in the nationalization of the mines. They all believe in the nationalization of the highest commanding heights of the economy. They believe in returning land to people. So I would say in terms of the policy proposal, formulation and articulation, I would say 95% they see like eye to eye when it comes to some of these policies. The only thing it would be personalities in terms of whether these personalities will at some point stomach each other and ultimately really agree on some of the things.
Well,
it's all about personality.
Okay, so we can leave it in Tebo Mokobo. So eye to eye in tackling an eye for an eye, something we need to consider. Let's see how it pans out. Thank you for your time, much appreciated. What do you make of that? The Progressive Caucus and their alliance and their own presser in terms of setting their own agenda, because remember, they're the opposition, and certainly they're going to do it as a collective. Then that Progressive Caucus is now the official opposition, although the official opposition, as we know, is the MK party. Right, I'll get your thoughts, I'll get your calls, I'll get your WhatsApps, and I'll certainly get your tweets as well if you're doing just that, right after this.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
Hi, my name is Jackie. I'm 35 years old from Pretoria and I only pay 691 Rand for my 2022 Ford EcoSport with OUTsurance Comprehensive.
What makes the best car insurer? The best price with awesome service, right? SMS out to 30754 to see if you can pay less, experience awesome service, and see for yourself why OUTsurance was voted best car insurer by many publications and best car, home and business insurer at the News 24 Awards for the past 2 years.
I am not surprised they won all the awards because in my experience they are excellent.
They walk the talk. They actually do what they say and they follow through on their promises.
SMS out to 30754 and see for yourself. Experience awesome. Go to outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Nelson Mandela once said,
"We are humbled by the call for an annual Mandela Day in our honor.
Let's honor his legacy and make every day
a Mandela Day. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
We get such interesting calls and comments from people. Someone saying John Klopp has come back to bite at the president because of how he was fired as a judge. And now he's using the same law that was used against him over the president. From Brian Mabaya from Protea Glen. Believe it or not. I'll take further thoughts as well, right? Let's move on to other issues. Now, many of the departments have been tabling their budgets, and the same goes for the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, right? He's raised many issues, and I think the central issue is South Africa needing to get to grips with debt, right? So let's get a thought in terms of what was said and how it effectively then converts into how it impacts on you, right? Professor Daniel Meyer is a policy expert. Good chatting to you, Prof. Meyer. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, and afternoon to your listeners.
All right. What for you then would be like the headline act in terms of what was said that you'd like to share with us?
First point is I think the minister is in the position now for nearly 3 years, and I've never heard him saying something very controversial that could have a negative impact on the markets, the economy, and so on. But I would say he's talking about stability for the government budget, stability regarding our debt position, and stability in terms of provincial government, local government, to support them as far as possible, and also stability for SARS, which they are also supporting. So stability, I think, is the main story, and also to support service delivery with the new government, transparent government, as well as the public sector wage bill stability. So I think stability is the key word.
Okay, so you're saying he hardly ever says things any controversial, and do I take it didn't happen this time around either?
Yeah, he's talking the right stuff. That's what the markets want to hear. That is what business people want to hear. So I think it's good for the economy if you've got a stable minister that's always talking middle of the road, the right policy statements. So that's good for the economy that needs to grow fast. You said in the beginning that the government debt is a massive problem, and it is a massive problem that's been building up over the last 12, 13 years, and it's up to roughly about 13% of total budget, just the debt servicing cost for us. So it's a massive problem, but it can be solved as soon as we can start growing at higher percentages than 1%. That we've got at the moment.
Okay. I see he spoke about, that 5 trillion rands worth of debt and that's rising debt deficit. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we have got a rising debt problem. It's between, depending how you calculate it, between 72% to 75% of GDP. So that it's been capped there. It's been stabilized over the last year or so. It's not been going up drastically. It's been very stable. And hopefully the ship can now be turned going down again. And that ship could be easily turned if we've got higher levels of growth, because we calculate that percentage of GDP. So I think there's a good vibe at the moment with the load shedding that's disappearing 110 days ago. We should have higher levels of growth, because that was our growth ceiling for the last 6, 7, 8 years. We had the ceiling above our age for the growth. So I think it is a positive outlook.
Did he give an impression or an idea in terms of how that growth practically will be achieved?
He didn't give anything, but between the lines, there's policy certainty. Uncertainty in terms of our policies is a killer for the economy, and we know that. Even the president's trying to attract investment is coming very slowly because of policy uncertainty. But with this new government, it seems like we're going to have more certainty, and that investment will drive the growth of the future. And we need to have higher levels of investment. Investors' confidence will bring it in. No uncertainty about land issues, property rights, law and order must be in place. All of the policies for all of the economic base sectors like agriculture, mining, manufacturing, we need stability there, and I think it is improving. Definitely, okay. There's a positive vibe coming up.
All right. He also he spoke about an action plan. I understand, right? Financial action plan. Tell me about that.
There's many plans. If you look at the policy statement, one of the plans or the action plans, or let's say the main pillars of the action plans, except for the stability that must be there, is that we get out of this grey listing in terms of the financial action task force, that we were grey listed. So that's one of the things, because investment will not come in if we're on a grey list. The infrastructure planning, the PPP, the public-private partnerships must be improving. We want the private sector to be bigger, have a bigger say in the economy. And then local government is the other pillar that is under huge pressure. And about half of this speech is about local government and how can we support local government. And the last one was about SARS. SARS is collecting the revenue for the government, and it's been declining a little bit, and we need to have a higher level of revenue because our expenditure is also increasing. So those are the pillars of the speech.
What did he say about money laundering?
He didn't talk about it, but I think it's part of this FATF grey listing issue, that there's this money laundering and other issues happening. And there's been money allocated to this investigation and to get all the tick-off boxes for the organization that will test us and see if we are improving on all of those. There's been an amount of 31 million allocated to sort out this issue. So the government is really is very serious about getting out of this issue. It is a big problem for attracting investment. So any effort that we do to attract will not work if we still grey listed.
All right. And lastly, did he touch on the complexities and the challenges of the GNU in terms of how it would present a challenge to him doing his work?
I didn't see any of that in it. I think that will be talking out of the kitchen where they had the Lekotla over the weekend. As I understand it, we will hear more tonight about what's the way forward in terms of government policy. I think there will be some direction change. We've already seen that some of the ministers have changed. The economic cluster is a little bit changed now, and I think we've been stagnating for a while under the previous minister, Patel. So I think we've got some new blood, and we hope that they can work together for the best of the country. A coalition will only work if they care about the citizens and not about themselves or their party. So people first, then we will have a successful new government.
Let's hope their blood is green, as we would say. Prof. Daniel Mayer, thank you for your time. Right, much appreciate your input. And certainly, what about you listening in as we speak about that budget report vote that is being tabled? Any comments, any thoughts that's come through for you that is particularly important that you'd like to get off your chest? You can call in 086 000 2032. We'll take your calls pretty shortly. In fact, let's get the news headlines now. It's 4:30. Here's Madubi.
Very much, Ashraf, and good afternoon. In your headlines, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has promised more police visibility in crime hotspots in the Western Cape. There's no relief in sight for indebted consumers as the Reserve Bank decides to keep repo rates unchanged, and the new British Prime Minister has promised to reset the UK's relationship with the EU. Details with Greg coming up at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. Main Road northbound in Bryanston has a crash before Robin Road. Swartkoppies Road westbound in Alberton is slow moving at the R59 highway. And the N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle before the M13 Paradise Valley Interchange. The M13 eastbound in Hillcrest has a crash before Shongweni Road exit, and the R102 southbound is slow moving near Old North Coast Road. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Krombom Road. The N1 Service Road outbound has flooding reported near Sable Road. The N7 Jakes Haverhill Drive southbound has flooding reported at Milton Road. Turfel Road eastbound in Lansdowne is queuing towards Jan Smuts Drive, and Krombom Road eastbound in Athlone is slow moving towards Jan Smuts Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, let's talk sport. No, let's talk Mandela Day first to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were going to go somewhere today. What did you do?
So this morning, I spent the morning with the Childhood Cancer Foundation.
Is that CHOC, right?
CHOC,
Yeah, okay.
yes, it's CHOC. And a couple of companies came there to bring groceries. So we were helping to pack the groceries, and I was able to also spend some time with some of the kids, which was really heartbreaking. But I think for me, I love the hope that I got from some of them. I was speaking to a 15-year-old. Unfortunately, his leg is going to be amputated tomorrow. Yes, but like, the hope he had, like, I was just like, oh my goodness, if someone was in his situation, I was telling myself, they would feel hopeless. But he was like, I'm going to be okay. I'm actually going to be okay. I know that I'm going to learn how to walk again, but I'm very hopeful that I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, I don't know what I would tell that person, right? But here's the last thing. What do they know Mandela?
They do. Definitely.
All right.
They do, and they know that today is just all about the spirit of giving. Giving not only money or their services, but just giving of themselves fully to those that can't pay back.
Well, it's a good point. Now, is any teams giving off of themselves? Rugby, cricket, soccer, you tell me?
Well, I saw Vodacom was working with some of the teams.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll talk about it some other time. Okay, let's get to the real business of why you're here. Let's talk sport.
Alrighty. We start things off with rugby this hour. Lukhanyo Am says that he's set for his first test match for the Springboks since last August. Will make his first test appearance for the year, as he's been dealing with a troublesome knee injury that he got last August. Now set to earn his 36th test cap in a midfield combination with Andre Esterhuizen. Says that he's quite eager to show how or why he was regarded as one of the best in the world in his position and get back to his best for the Boks. And he says it feels good to be back.
It's amazing. It's amazing for the group. It's amazing for individuals in the group. Where there's no complacency. You have to bring your A game. You have to be the best version of yourself. Each training session, each day, each game day, I think it's just healthy, because we all want to grow. We all want to allow each other or ourselves, to be good, and it's amazing, man.
Then in football, for the first time in 2 seasons, Stellenbosch FC is heading into the new season having retained most of the key players. But the club CEO, Robert Benandi, says that he's not ruling out selling 1 or 2 players to balance the books. He has reflected on the off-season transfer activity, signing some of last season's top performers.
We have strengthened our squad. I think the signings of Sanele Barnes and Bradley Mojela are quite key. We really feel that we, from an offensive point of view, our attacking midfielders and our strike force and so on, we've got enough there now. We're definitely not in the market looking for anybody there. We think we very dangerous going forward in those front players. And as I say, at this stage, as we're sitting here now, no one else is leaving. Probably won't stay that way, but no one else is leaving.
Elsewhere, Manchester United have signed Lenny Yoro on a 5-year deal. United have agreed a £52 million fee with Lille that could rise as high as £59 million with the add-ons. Now, the 18-year-old is set to become Eric Ten Hag's second signing of the summer after the Red Devils. So Manchester United won over Real Madrid because these two teams were basically fighting for this youngster, and it'll be interesting to see how he's going to perform at Manchester United, because he's tipped to be one to look out for.
How good is he? Because I understand everybody wanted him, right?
Yeah. Like, he was wanted by a lot of clubs. He hasn't played more than 60 professional games, but a lot of these clubs, they can see that he is advancing very quickly. He comes from the academy side of Lille, and just looking at his stats in terms of his passes and how he has been doing that side, I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do for the Red Devils.
And joining a club that's not even playing in Champions League football, the world has indeed changed. Yeah.
Well, elsewhere, Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou says that he has no idea about the reports linking him with the England job. Postecoglou insisted that he's only focused on being the Spurs boss following Gareth Southgate's resignation on Tuesday. Newcastle manager Eddie Howe is the leading contender to become England's next manager, and England are next in action when they face the Republic of Ireland on the 7th of September in the Nations League. In golf, the Open to be specific, Justin Thomas is leading the pack, sitting on 3 under par, with second place tied for 4 players, including Justin Rose. And in terms of the South Africans, Tristan Lawrence is the highest South African 10th on 1 under par. Then in tennis, Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas says that the Olympics hold special significance to him due to its Greek origins, adding that he's hoping to realize his dreams of winning an Olympic medal at this month's Paris Olympics. Greece have won 3 medals in tennis at the Olympics, all of which came in 1896 at the first modern Olympic Games held in Athens. And the tennis tournament at the Olympics will take place from the 27th of July to the 4th of August. Remember, you can catch all that action on SABC Sport. And I was reading about an interesting artist who has decided that he's going to write out the names of all the medalists that have won at the Olympics. Yes, that's like 30,245 medalists. And he has a big scroll and has all these names. He's still writing out the names, and he wants it to be an art of peace.
And where are they going to mount it? I mean, you can't keep it in you can't put it in an envelope.
He's hoping that
you can't put it in your
absolutely not.
It's got to be
absolutely
somewhere.
not. But he says he's hoping that they can frame it and put it somewhere so that people can see that, listen.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't use that to divide the borders of 2 countries. I mean, just imagine that. How long would that be? Yeah, think about that. Okay, more. That's it, right?
Yeah, that's
more
it.
sports. More sport in an hour to meet.
It's Truck Month at Ford, which means you save big when you upgrade to the ultimate adventure-ready 4x4. Get the Ford Ranger Tremor for only $876,600, which comes standard with off-road features like adaptable Bilstein shocks and easy clean flooring. That's only $876,600 at your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right. Well, I think it's an important day ahead of the opening of Parliament. How does that impact everything? So local and global markets, and as well as the issues around Kumba Iron Ore. Let's get all of that with Makwe Masilela, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good chatting to you as always. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf, and afternoon to the listeners. Ashraf, Kumba Iron Ore, the guys aligned their production to Transnet's logistics performance. Volumes were down 2%, matching a 2% decrease when it comes to ore railed to the ports. Sales decreased by 5%, and iron ore market pulled back strongly, and weak steel demand coming from in China and Europe, coupled with robust iron ore supply, contributed to a 26% fall in prices. Hence, they expect their profits as headline earnings per share to go down by 29%. And yes, market participants started the Mandela Day trading session watching for interest rate decision from our central bank and also from the European Central Bank, plus also Cyril Ramaphosa's speech tonight at the opening of Parliament. And I guess markets just want a simple good governance from the GNU, and the verbal trade tension between the US and China continue to be on our radar screens as Trump's new running mate struck a hard line on China, blaming US wage losses on China, and the demand when it comes to advanced chips used in AI applications continue to surge. And yes, as expected, European Central Bank left rates unchanged, and we also left ours unchanged at 15-year high of 8.25%, and that was for a 7th meeting in a row. And gold is hovering near a record peak as traders ramped up bets of rate cuts, constraining gains in the dollar and treasury yields. Gold Gold, as it is now, is up 0.2% at 2,464, but platinum is down 0.4% at 992. Oil prices are low as traders took profits from earlier gains. We know those gains were fueled by larger than expected declines when it comes to U.S. crude stocks. Brent crude is down 0.4% at $84 a barrel. DAX FTSE up nicely. CAC up 1%. The Dow is up 0.3%. S&P, just like the JSE, up 0.1%. And the JSE, we see our industrials are up nicely 0.4%, but our financials are flat. And the rand didn't have much of a reaction to that interest rate decision. It's now 18.20 to the US dollar, 23.62 to the pound, and 19.86 to the euro.
Well, thanks for that. Great chatting to you as always, Makwe. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thank you for that. Right, okay. Certainly and lots of people want to comment. I know that. We're going to take your calls now. Then we'll chat in a few minutes' time to the director of Chefs with Compassion as part of their Mandela Day initiative. So, in fact, let me do this. Let me get some of the calls right now. Impo's on the line. Hi, Impo.
Ashraf, how are you?
I'm very good indeed. Right, go ahead. What's your point?
No, man. I just wanted to look. I am of the view that the guy who is it your colleague, an SABC correspondent from Cape Town?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a view that his analogies was very shallow. I mean, you asked the question as to how does the progressive whatever alliance see itself delivering on whatever mandate that they've outlined. And there is no interpretation. It's just like, no, I'm not sure because they don't have the numbers. Because that kind of analogy is as much as saying, why do kids go to school if we know that there's no employment? I mean, we can't drop to that level as
okay. I hear you. Look, we get different people with different commentaries, and of course that's his interpretation. And of course, the good thing is you have your own views, and you've expressed just that. So thanks for that. Thanks for that call, Impo. Right. Let's get to other comments. We get to from Leboa. That is. Let's get closer to where we are now, right now in Rosebank. Butana, hello.
Hi, my brother Ashraf. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon indeed. You sound enthusiastic. Yeah.
Yes, I'm always enthusiastic.
I know.
You interviewed the minister. It's now justice. It's no longer correctional. It's justice. Correctional service is justice. She's just not giving any hope. But I hope that it's too early. She doesn't talk about the whistleblower protection. She doesn't talk about the cooks and thieves that have caused the government 50 billion stolen. As Zondo has pointed out all those cooks, she doesn't mention even one of them. The only thing that is bothering me, they seems to be not jacked up to deal with problems of this country. They seems to be, relaxed. There's nothing that tells me that they're going to do something.
Okay. All right. I got that. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Butana. Thanks for that. But I mean, let me say this much. I mean, to be fair to the minister, the basis of our conversation was on the basis of their budget vote. And this is what happens now. So it's linked to that. There'll be opportunities. I mean, I ask certain questions. There's time limitations always in interviews. You can only do it, whether it's 5 minutes, maximum 10, and that determines where you're going to go with it. So some of the issues that you raise, I didn't raise it with her and she didn't raise it either, but those opportunities will come when the time comes. So that doesn't mean not raising it means it will not be looked at, right? Mike in Newlands, hi.
Yes, hello, Ashraf. Yeah. I just want to, hi there. I just wanted to comment on Mandela Day, but let me just agree with the one caller who phoned in complaining about the fact we have police everywhere in Cape Town at the moment. In fact, it's chaos on the roads. I've just come back from Cape Town. They shut off most of Duval Drive all the way into town. I've never seen so many police, but actually when it comes to law and order and crime, it's completely out of control. And I really do question whether we need to go through this opening of Parliament. It's really a bit of a sham. I normally go down to watch Parliament open every year, and I watch the trooping of the colour and the police and so on. And it's a shambles now. You can't even get close to the city castle, to the city hall. So you can't even see the soldiers marching or the army marching or the navy marching. But just quickly on this Nelson Mandela Day thing, there was at lunchtime on SABC TV. They did a news with this guy Skalani George, who's I mentioned him before. He's the Secretary of Parliament, and he was bemoaning and actually saying how fantastic Nelson Mandela was, and waxing lyrical about the sacrifices he made. But this is the same guy who still earns 4.2 million rand a year, more than the president. And I thought to myself, I was right at that stadium when Nelson Mandela made his famous speech at the City Hall 30-odd years ago. I was right there. And I tell you what, Nelson Mandela would not be standing next to that man today. He wouldn't believe it if he had somebody from the government or civil service earning that kind of money praising him. I don't think Nelson Mandela would stand for that.
All right, point made. Of course, I can't speak for Nelson Mandela, but I'm sure you can't do either. But I hear what you're saying. Thanks for that call, Mike in Newlands. In terms of the Parliament, here's my thoughts. I think you can debate the fanfare part, and I'm watching the MPs and their friends or their families coming in, and they're all dressed up. What's that phrase, to the nines, and whether that's really true or not. But they're certainly doing that, and the weather's not that great in Cape Town today. I know that. But I think you have to separate the fanfare part of it from a constitutional requirement that is needed as per the opening of Parliament. So you can't actually scrap the opening of Parliament. You can maybe decide whether you want to tone down on some other aspects. On the other hand, as Mike has said, the fact that he's been there from day one and been there every time, do you really, whereas you don't want to spend a fortune when people are starving, but you also want to take away one of those instruments of our democracy, to say we celebrate. Today is in many ways the celebrating of the manifestation of an instrument of democracy that we voted for on May the 29th. And may that continue. Right, further comments. We've got some WhatsApp thoughts on many issues, and another one on the caucus.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. Look, the common good or goals that they are talking about is the agenda of the EFF. So it just shows that the other smaller political parties, unfortunately, have no positive contribution to make to the discussions in Parliament and in the country. It's very unfortunate. And you can hear that it's a sound of anger. Most of these guys are very angry. So I'm not too sure, and I don't think they will add any value to the discussions in the country and in Parliament.
Okay, they won't add any value. Well, look, thank you for that. The reality is they are in the minority. They're like a minority, and the question is, what impact will they make? We'll have to find out. They are now effectively the grouping that is the official opposition. One may say, what impact will larger parties like the DA make when they form part of a collective called the Government of National Unity? Here's another thought.
Good day, Ashraf, and all the SAFM listeners. Listening to the Progressive Caucus, John Klopp saying whatever he was saying there just made me think of the fact that he's now part of the Judicial Commission. It's just like pardoning Thabo Bester and giving him a seat on the parole board. This is Rez from Tsanin.
Okay, there we are. Enough said about that, right? Let's move on to other things. Mandela Day. Still waiting for people, and I'm amazed. I'm not getting enough. And we're getting lots of comments on a range of issues, and we can never take all, unfortunately. But we're not getting enough comment and commentary on Mandela Day today, in particular, what you did or other organizations, or did anybody do something that was so impressive that you just have to share that story. That's what I want to know around Mandela Day, and I'm waiting for that. We'll talk about a Mandela Day initiative after this.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's talk about Chefs with Compassion. It's their 5th annual, if I get it right, 67,000 litres challenge for Mandela Day. To tell us more about it is Chef Koo Pillay, the founding director of Chefs with Compassion. Koo, good chatting to you. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Right, so tell me about it. It's a 67,000 litre challenge that's taken place. What's it about?
So this initiative started, as you mentioned, it's our 5th edition. So we were in 2020 amidst a very hard lockdown. And the reason why we chose to do a challenge like this is because, we at the time said because we're in a lockdown, we were limited into where we could go and, people getting involved. So that's when we said, let's open it up as a national challenge and let's get everybody within their own communities and in their working environments to do their bit for Mandela Day. And that's how this initiative started. And I must tell you, it's grown in leaps and bounds. And, over the last 4 editions, we served just over 1.3 million cups of soup just from this Mandela Day initiative.
Okay.
And I must say, after today, it's been a very long day. The chefs and cooks and home cooks started very early this morning. I was privileged to visit some of the kitchens and some of the beneficiaries that also received the soup. And our team is busy telling up the numbers. But I must say we've had a very successful day today.
So tell me, where is this done? I mean, just set the scene for us as well.
So this is, it's the spirit of Mandela Day, because the essence of Mandela Day is every South African to get involved and do your 67 minutes for good. And this is open to everybody. So home cooks, communities, existing NPOs, corporates, hotels and restaurants, whoever is able to cook. And that's what makes this challenge so special, because it's not just open to professional chefs or restaurants, but anybody that has access to a kitchen that is able to cook and give back to the community.
But and in terms of where, just set the scene in terms of the events, in terms of who distributing the soup. Give me the place and the people who are there.
So we've cooked, today we've had kitchens across the entire country, from deep rural areas. I mean, we've had kitchens in Limpopo and Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, and then also, the bigger metropoles, Johannesburg. I won't give too much away with the numbers, but Johannesburg leading the pack. We had kitchens across the greater Johannesburg city cooking. So, in all parts of the country, corporates got together. It was such an amazing team-building opportunity for corporates. They cooked at various kitchens. They partnered with local culinary schools. Some even went to the beneficiaries and cooked there. A lot of home cooks opened up their kitchens and they cooked, and they supported even the people alongside the streets, that you always pass on your way home during the traffic. And so it was such a great day of, that warm community spirit and that act of kindness.
And can you share with us maybe one anecdote about the recipients of this act of kindness? I mean, what did they say?
I don't think it was. I think they say a picture says a lot, and they didn't have to say anything. When they got given that either the bowl or the cup during the day today, just that smile that when they received it, that said a lot for me, and they didn't have to say anything further, because you could see they were so grateful for what they got, especially now, with the weather and especially down in the Western Cape and KZN that's still recovering from the tornado. It's just a little bit of a hearty, nutritional soup that really goes a long way.
Okay, got that. Well, I'm glad that you guys have done what you've done, and it shows you again, the impact that groups of people can have on other people when they collectively do things, and you've done that. The question is, how do we sustain that? Chef Ku Pillay, the founding director of Chefs with Compassion, and they distribute 67,000 litres of soup for Mandela Day, and that's a campaign they've done now for the last 5 years, and been very, very successful at doing just that. But you may have your own thoughts on Mandela Day in terms of what you've done for Mandela Day, or others that have done that has so impressed you. And if that's the case, then I certainly want to know about it, right? Okay, let's move on. We spoke about the U.S. the presidential race, and who's in charge and who is not. Here's one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Theo in Cape Town. Ashraf, regarding the health of President Biden, the man is old. I think the Democrat will persuade him to quit, and the Vice President Kamala Harris will take over, and that's where the game will be interesting. Because if you look at how Biden talks and walk, I don't think he's gonna be able to stand and compete against Donald Trump. It's just a matter of time. We're gonna hear the news that President Biden just quit, and to give to the Vice President Kamala Harris. That's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay,
you.
got that.
Because both candidates also are very old, but slow. Another one is very fair. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's see. I must tell you, judging from what was said today, yesterday, overnight with Joe Biden, and the fact that he's now got COVID, but not just that, I think there is a sense that his party, the Democrats, would be rather foolhardy if they put him up against Donald Trump now. That means who's got the best chance to deliver an election win for his party? That has got to be question number one. And if I were them, well, I know what I would do. Smanga in Cape Town, let's talk Mandela Day. Smanga, you're live. Hello.
Yes, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. Glad you called in. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, so today, normally I'm from Amazon, so we normally teach the kids coding. So what we have done today, we went to the communities. So we went to the communities in the libraries and to teach them coding. Upon that, there's a game of coding called Rangers. And then after we taught those kids, we allow them to play the game and they play as a competition and they can win something. So today I spend my time in Ocean View teaching the kids coding and playing the game, being a judge. It was really, really nice.
Well, nice. I'm so glad you've shared that story with us, and it's very heartwarming again. And I think, as you know, coding is very important. One thing is giving out, handouts of food and hampers and soup, and that's fine. Yeah. But the other is to be able to be in a position where you actually change their lives. You're teaching them how to fish. Coding does just that. Smanga, thanks for your call. Appreciate it. There we are. Let's get further thoughts. Somebody wants to comment. Obviously, the repo rate's unchanged. What about this?
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. With regards to the high interest rates and the high cost of living, I lay the blame squarely upon this government. If you look at the national debt of this country and how it has grown, they are the cause of this increased demand for credit in this country. And the sad thing is there is nothing to show for what they are borrowing this money for, except on useless ministerial portfolios and subsidizing Eskom, rather than going to arrest the people who stole the money at Eskom and fix Eskom. Thanks. Lionel Whitbank.
Well, I mean, to be fair to Eskom, they're not perfect, and when you have something broken, I always give an example of a football team. If your team's in a mess and you've got a new coach, minimum requirement 3 years, minimum to get competitive. Maybe 5 years if you can win a league title. The same would apply with Eskom. Why would we think it would be any different? I'm not suggesting that we must give them time forever. I'm saying to you the damage has been so great that is exactly what's happened, and that is now what is required to be able to say, hey, hold it, we've got this. On the other hand, all the parties, all what you've mentioned, well, I think that's reflected in the vote on May 29th, and it's reflected in the composition of the government we have starting officially today. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greco's.
Thank you and good afternoon to you, Ashraf. In this news update, more police visibility in crime hotspots and Starmer vows to reset EU relations. Good day to you. The Police Minister, Senzim Kunu's promised more police visibility in crime hotspots in the Western Cape. He was addressing the Nat Joint's deployment in Cape Town ahead of the opening of Parliament this evening. President Cyril Ramaphosa will give the opening address at around 7 p.m. tonight. The SABC will cover the event live on its channels. The Minister says he's engaged with the National Police Commissioner to establish what areas and aspects of policing need to be strengthened.
As from this weekend, we are on the ground working with the police, executing our plans thus far, particularly in the Western Cape, which has been touted or indicated by police as one of our hotspots for now, and the Eastern Cape. And therefore, people of the Western Cape, particularly in the city of Cape Town, they must know that we are aware, we've been preparing.
There's no relief in sight for indebted consumers as the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee decided to keep the repo rates unchanged at a 14-year high of 8.25%. The prime lending rate therefore remains on hold at 11.75%. The Reserve Bank Governor, Lesetja Kanyako.
While the forecast has improved, the balance of risks is assessed to the upside. Against this backdrop, the Monetary Policy Committee decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 8.25%. 4 members preferred an unchanged stance and 2 preferred a reduction of 25 basis. In discussing the stance, MPC members agreed that restrictive policy remains appropriate to stabilize inflation at 4.5%.
The KwaZulu-Natal Department of Agriculture and Rural Development says it's urgently trying to locate a person who surrendered a puppy at the Pietermaritzburg SPCA on Sunday, which has since tested positive for rabies. The department says the person requires immediate medical treatment to avoid possible serious illness and even death. In the past 3 months, 15 positive cases have been confirmed in the province, and 5 of those are from Pietermaritzburg. MEC Tembeni Kwamatlopi Mthethwa is currently leading a vaccination and awareness drive in the area.
Durban, Pietermaritzburg and King Cetshwayo have the highest number of reported rabies cases in the province. This particular puppy dropped off at the SPCA was extremely aggressive and could have possibly bit someone prior. This is why we have decided to embark on this vaccination campaign to this area, in particular to prevent any possible infections and deaths.
700 surgeries are expected to be performed in public hospitals across Gauteng this weekend. This is part of the Provincial Health Department's Nelson Mandela Day commemoration. The initiative has been created to deal with the backlog of surgeries in the province. Last year, almost 37,000 people were awaiting surgeries in Gauteng. The new British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has promised to reset the UK's relationship with the European Union. He was opening a major European summit in England. Around 45 leaders are attending the summit, including Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. He's told them his country needs more military aid and greater flexibility in how the weapons are used against Russia.
The more effective our air defense is, the more helpless Putin will be. The fewer restrictions we have on the use of effective weapons, the more Russia will seek peace.
The top story, the police minister's promised more police visibility in crime hotspots in the Western Cape. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khus.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
In your sports this hour, Lukhanyo looking forward to Test return and Chippa United makes changes to its coaching department. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, in Midrand, the N1 northbound is queuing towards Olifantsfontein Road and the N1 southbound has a crash reported after Allendale Road. In Pretoria, the N1 southbound has a stationary vehicle reported before Rigel Avenue and Eskiem Patleli Drive northbound has delays towards Mapopane Highway. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle after Spaghetti Junction. The N3 is queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. The N3 eastbound in Pinetown is slow moving at Murray Hill Toll Plaza. And the N3 westbound in Camperdown is queuing towards Umlaas Road. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a stationary truck at Hilbeson Drive. The N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive has flooding reported at Milton Road. And the M5 northbound queuing towards the N1 outbound ramp at Kubik Interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Every girl dreams of her perfect wedding. The venue, decor, rings, guest list, the speeches, the vows. Seeing a tear roll down her groom's cheek. The $1 million budget. I think there's a typo in the script, no? No, carry on. It's $1 million US, Chief. Bespoke Cartier jewelry inspired by Meghan Markle. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of flowers and multiple designer wedding dresses are nothing out of the ordinary for Lillian Chu, a wedding planner to the super rich in East Asia. She only takes 10 weddings a year at an average cost of $1 million. Channel your best joy with the $1 Million Wedding Planner. This Thursday, the 18th of July at 10 p.m. Only on S3. Open up. S3.
Attention ladies, join us on Saturday, August 17th, 2024 for the Star Choices Yours Women's Day event at Altitude Fourways, a day dedicated to empowerment, inspiration and transformation. Engage with dynamic speakers, attend interactive conversations and connect with amazing women just like you. The event will be hosted by the fabulous Unatingai. Don't miss out on this opportunity to celebrate and elevate yourself. Get your tickets now at www.quicket.co.za for 550 Rand, drinks, food and a gift bag included. Plus, stand a chance to win an honor product. This incredible event is powered by independent media and the Honor 200 series.
The Rockets and Umkhonto Kashaga will speak a different language from Siswati and Isindebele when they meet at the office made of grass. They both understand that only victory will impress their fans. This is the Mpumalanga Premiers International Cup 2024. Experience the thrilling encounter between the highly inspired Tears Galaxy and Eswatini champions Mbabane Swallows FC on Saturday 20 July at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Tickets are available at CompuTicket. Proudly brought to you by the TS Galaxy Foundation and SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I mentioned this the other day when I flew back from Cape Town on an SAA flight that suddenly, after a long time, you see many of the cabinet ministers and other senior members in Parliament not sitting in the business class seats, so you get them sitting with the rest of the rest in budget seats, and that just meant that you meet so many different people, including, in my case, the Minister of Electricity as well as the Deputy Minister of Electricity and the spokesperson for Education, together with the DG for International Relations, Zain Dengo. Right? So I'm looking at a tweet now, and that's why I'm telling you about this. I see there's a really cute tweet. Check it out, from Edward Kieswetter. We spoke to him yesterday, remember, from SARS, and he says, I had such a good conversation with President Mbeki, both of us travelling to the opening of Parliament in Cape Town. He's been following the work of SARS quite closely, and he's a big supporter of what we are doing to rebuild the institution of post-state capture. And then just thank you. And anyway, there's a picture of them seated together on this flight, and whether that's planned in business class or budget class, either way, maybe budget is appropriate because they're talking about tax savings. Either way, this commentary from Edward Kieswetter is in fact I suppose in many ways it's a bit of a press conference in its own way. Just one tweet becomes a presser. So we're telling you about that because we have the opening of Parliament coming up 7 o'clock. Remember the address. Many people coming in now. It's very chilly in Cape Town, so people dressed warmly. Lots of wind early on, I know that. And let me tell you, there's an SFM special broadcast on the opening of Parliament that starts at 6 p.m. after this show, hosted by Bongiwe Zwane as well as Koketso Sashani. So do not miss that, right? In the meantime, setting the scene for the opening of Parliament is Mercedes Besant, the SABC News reporter, and she compiled this report.
The DA, one of the major partners in the coalition, says it's happy that consensus was reached in the first Cabinet Lekgotla over the weekend, ahead of the opening of Parliament address. When he briefed the media, DA leader John Steenhuisen outlined the party's expectations from the president's address.
We expect that in the opening, President Ramaphosa will outline South Africa's reform agenda, which I'm proud to announce in many instances has alignment with DA policies as well. This is important when it comes to unlocking economic growth and building a capable state. And I'm glad to see that the DA's presence in the Government of National Unity is strong and visible. And I trust that the President's address will reflect the plurality of voices that now exists in national government, and that he will commit himself wholeheartedly to this necessary policy shift, particularly after the highly successful Cabinet Lekgotla that took place over the last weekend.
The EFF's Leanne Matei says they have no expectations from the opening of Parliament address for the 7th administration.
We don't have any expectations, but our expectation is that we must give proper oversight here in Parliament, especially now that we have this white supremacist coalition between the ANC and DA. So more than ever, South Africa needs opposition and a revolutionary movement like the EFF.
Action SA parliamentary leader Ethel Trollip says the party wants to see if the new Ramaphosa administration will bring anything new.
The 29th of May, the electorate turned their back on the previous government of Cyril Ramaphosa. So now he has a new government. You can call it what you like, a grand coalition or a government of national unity. First thing we want to know, what is his plan of action? What's he going to do differently? Secondly, what is he going to do about actually growing our economy? Because we have a really bad international reputation. We can't generate foreign direct investment because there's no policy security, there's no political stability in this country. And those are the issues that drive economies.
Rise Mzansi leader Songezo Zibi believes that South African voters have asked for a fresh start when they failed to give any party an outright majority in the elections. He outlined some of the expectations from the president's address.
So the first thing that we expect from the president is the beginnings of a new vision, a new era in South African politics, where hopefully we are going to be a lot more bold, because theoretically, with the GNU having so much of the percentage of parliament, we should be able to take bold actions in order to solve things like crime, the food crisis, grow the economy, and so on. So if you can get a very strong idea of a new vision, that would be great.
Build One South Africa leader Musi Maimane also has certain expectations.
And therefore, I would ask the President to ensure that the priority is the citizens of South Africa rather than the political class. That the priority be focused on the areas we've prescribed and ensure that we produce for the people of this country a new substantive program that achieves the delivery of key services to the people of this country.
And while all eyes will be on the opening of Parliament address, it also coincides with International Mandela Day.
And that is from Mercedes Bessen, the SABC News reporter. So we'll have further comments on that, but we should be chatting to Sanusha Naidu pretty shortly. In the meantime, let's get your thoughts on some of the big issues that we've raised. Here's one question. Further commentary or comments that you have on Mandela Day and what's been done. I see some people are tweeting. It's certainly the case with Imzamo Dudula tweeting me saying, Ashraf, we joined our clients to paint a local school and donated toiletries to the kids. It was a great experience and privilege. Thank you for that, firstly. But let's have more of those, pictures, contributions, and if you are posting it, you can first of all tweet it out, then just tag SAFM Radio and myself. But also, if you want to send it via WhatsApp, we will pick it up. Just pictures, especially what you're doing, or if you're aware of other people doing really fabulous things. Right. Let's get some calls in the meantime. Simo Mkwanazi wants to comment on the finance minister. Simo, hi.
Yes, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good indeed. Right, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Yeah. First and foremost, I wanted to comment on the latter professor that you had. I think he's so much in love with the minister that when you ask questions, all he does is to cover up. When you ask if the minister does have a plan of a predestined, desired future, to which he articulated on during his address, it seems as if minister said none, but the professor is covering up. We don't like such political analysts who are to favor those whom they love. We want genuine comments on what actually transpired. But ideally, I wanted to comment on the issue of Judge Hlophe when he presented the issue to be discussed in Parliament. When I listen to him, many commenters are saying those are long-standing issues that have been raised by the EFF previously. So I'm not in disagreement with that. However, I'm asking a question. If those issues are issues of national interest, why would it be that we question the number of the opposition party if it will qualify them to actually materialize what they advocate for? Are we ideally saying that the ruling party is against the progress that is desired by the people. Are we basically saying that the ruling party, the GNU, is against assisting students with their debts that they've incurred during university?
All right, I got that. We're going to move on. Simo, I need to move on. I hear what you're saying. I think on the two parts, on the commentary from the analysts. Well, you know what, we have a range of analysts, and you know, clearly some of them I agree with, some of them I don't agree, and some of them you agree and you don't agree. The good thing is, like, in a month, you're never going to just get one person with one way of expressing himself or herself. In this case, that's the case. In terms of how the Progressive Caucus and others have commented and how they work things out, well, you know what? I think at this point in time, each one's job is going to be to knock each other out outside of Parliament to essentially put shade on them, right? Okay, let's get another thought. Bonakele, hi, in Khayelitsha, as always, putting it on the map.
Absolutely. Ashraf, once again, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like to agree with Ntebu Mukobo with regard to these opposition parties. They're going to really struggle because with the numbers they have, this opposition. In fact, that is what they chose. They must stay as opposition parties. I'm referring to that MK party, EFF, and the MDN. But they don't have enough numbers. So all in all, good for those who decided to join the GNU, Government of National Unity. Thanks to them. And the other thing that I want to make a request, man, do me a favor. There's one guy that I'm missing. Shout to me, and you know why I'm laughing. Yeah. I wanted to ask him as to who advised him to form a political party, and what is he doing currently? You know, I always laugh when I listen to that guy. Please do invite him so that I can listen to him.
Well, there you are, the former man in charge of the SABC. Who advised you? In fact, I don't know. I would think he advised himself. But got that? Bonakele, thank you for your time from Khayelitsha. Who advised Claudia Motsaneng to form a political party? It's not in Parliament, okay? Right. We have in fact, there's more thoughts on, here's another one about Mandela Day.
Good morning, SFM. This is Eugene from Newcastle. So what I did for Mandela Day, actually, I went to one of the local schools, and then I just asked the principal if perhaps I could have like a 2-hour session just with the matrics, and specifically those who were doing maths and physics. So yeah, I kind of gave a free tutorials based on maths and physics, and it went quite well. They were quite happy, and seemingly they want me to come on a frequent basis. So that's what I did for Mandela Day.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing that. That's what you've done, which is great. Okay, right. There's more, of course, and I will get to some of the others too, and further responses too. But let's speak to somebody else in terms of what they've done around Mandela Day, and in fact, it's a very important institution. Right after this.
Nelson Mandela once said, "We can change the world and make it better."
It is in your hands.
Let's honor his legacy and make every day a Mandela Day. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, keep the calls coming regarding what you've done for Mandela Day or what you know others have done for Mandela Day that so impressed you. Keep the pictures going as well via WhatsApp, and you can also tweet it out, the hashtag The National Pulse. You must use that. It's really great if you do that, okay? But then tag SAFM Radio and do tag me as well, Ashraf Garda, right? And if you're at Parliament today, are you at Parliament? I want to know. How about this question to you? You know, so the President will deliver an address today. What for you would be the type of address that you want to hear him say? I'm not talking of guesses. I'm saying, what should he be saying that will resonate with you when you listen to him or watch him at 7 o'clock? The speech you would like to hear is what? Complete the sentence. Okay, let's get on to other things around Mandela Day. The Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital is the result of important work in terms of the mandate, raising 1 billion rands to build a specialist pediatric hospital providing tertiary care to the Southern Africa region. It's certainly been done, inspired, initiated by the Children's Fund. So let's find out more about it in terms of what they've done around Mandela Day and just the overall impact that it's had, right, with Dr. Nkuli Boykotso, who's the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. Good chatting to you, and thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you. What a day for you guys today. What's it been like?
It's been an absolutely exciting day for us. You know, when the 18th of July comes, it's a moment when we get to interact with the community and just see sort of the tangible support that we have from the community. So it's been busy at the hospital. People have come in. They've painted. They've done so many things with the children as well. So it's been a wonderful day.
And in terms of, just take me back, because I think we need to know this. Because, I mean, the hospital is not like a 30-year-old hospital. It was set up fairly recently, I think in less than 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, right? When was it established? And give me the backstory around it.
So the hospital was established in 2017. So the first patients actually came in 2017. So that's 7 years ago. And the hospital was built because it was a dream by Nelson Mandela to have a children's hospital in Johannesburg. And he was inspired by the case of a child who had been injured, and he had visited the child and his family and noticed how the child was in a ward with adults and ICU with adult patients. And he inquired about why isn't there a children's hospital in South Africa? Because children's hospital, if you look at developed countries, there are quite a few of them. And in our country right now, we are the second children's hospital. So that was really inspired by him and his vision of changing the way in which society treats its children and young people. And so it came about because there was a need that was recognized as well, that there are certain services where the numbers are high, patients have to wait for a long period of time. The ICU bed availability as well is very limited, which then causes backlogs in surgeries for children. And so the hospital really was built to try and address that specific need, so ICU bed availability and surgical discipline availability.
Okay. And I suppose, has it had the desired impact? Because, I mean, he saw the vulnerability of children in the absence of a children's hospital, then envisioned it, and then obviously got the monies to be able to establish it. So how is that now manifested in practical terms? Are they getting what they want?
Yeah, so really the hospital has made an impact. And obviously the best people who will tell you are all the people who refer to us. You know, we've got patients that come from inside our province, from Chris-Hani Barra, and from other hospitals. We've got children that are coming from as far as Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and even from outside the borders of South Africa. About 14% of our admissions are from children that are outside of South Africa. So we are making an impact every single day that we see this hospital is being opened. And when it comes to Mandela Month, we often do a lot of what we call catch-up surgeries to do more than what we'd ordinarily do. Because as I mentioned earlier, you have these backlogs of children that are waiting for surgeries in different disciplines. You know, some have cardiac conditions, some have other surgical conditions that have to be treated.
Okay, so what did you do today then? I mean, there was a certain plan, I would take it?
Yeah, we did a lot today. So today really it was us interacting with the community. But in terms of us giving back, even as a hospital, beyond what we do on a daily basis, we had catch-up surgery week, which happened late in June, rightly into July. And then we also had VSD week, which was our heart operations that took place earlier on. So we're just building up with these surgeries.
All right. And in terms of the community interaction is one thing. Conversations with children. A question I asked earlier on: how many of these young children, know about Mandela? I mean, what's the level of consciousness? I mean, can you share something with us?
I guess the children who come to our hospital get to know because they'll wonder who is Nelson Mandela. But, with days like this, it gives us an opportunity to also go into the community. I spent the morning at St. Stephen's College, with their junior prep and prep schools and just telling them more about who Mandela is and what is the hospital. So if we keep his legacy alive, by continuing to do the good work that he, asked of us to do as a community, then the kids will know about him. So as the hospital continues to exist, then children will know about Mandela and who he was. And so we must continue to do the good work and keep keep it very
Absolutely.
lucky.
Well, and so must you guys. I think you play an important part, not just much on Mandela Day, but the overall work at the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. So thank you for your time. And this is really a shout out to your team, you and your team, for the work that you do, Dr. Nkuli Boykutso, the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. Further thoughts and comments on Mandela Day in particular? I'm very interested to know what you've done. How have you been inspired? If you've done nothing, are you inspired now to do something? Can you see year on year how Mandela Day itself is a catalyst for doing so much more? It's a reminder. And then do you do just that? That's the one thing. The other is let's look ahead to President Ramaphosa's speech, the very first under what is termed now the Government of National Unity. And my question to you, just complete the sentence. The speech I want to hear from the President is, you finish the sentence. Let's hear what your thoughts are on that, okay? I'll pick out some further comments. And here's one on different political parties. And let's hear this.
Good afternoon, Katuna and Radio SA listeners. Those people who want to act like National Party, all opposition party, that they want to push us back to where we was. So we must be against whites as the National Party was against us. We won't go back again. They must forget. They will make a big noise in the parliament, but they will never successful. Thank you, Sam.
All right, Sam, thank you for that call, right? Here's another. Did we play this one? Let's see.
Good morning, SFM. This is Eugene from Newcastle. So what I did for Mandela Day, actually, I went to one of the local schools, and then I just asked the principal if perhaps I could have like a 2-hour session just with the matrics, and specifically those who were doing maths and physics. So I kind of gave a free tutorials based on maths and physics, and it went quite well. They were quite happy, and seemingly they want me to come on a frequent basis. So that's what I did for Mandela Day.
Well, that's wonderful, and I hope you're going to say yes to their. Please come back on a frequent basis. Here's another on the Progressive Alliance.
Hi, Ashraf. Unfortunately, nothing really achievable and progressive was mentioned by this so-called Progressive Alliance. Being in the minority, they should focus on achievable, reasonable, and not controversial proposals that government can agree to, adopt, and implement. Ideas that will make a real positive difference to ordinary people's lives. Thanks.
No problem.
Bye.
Okay, well, you know what? So-called is one of the great, so-called. So-called is one of the great phrases we all use, the so-called, right? Let's get a quick comment on Dumile, right? Commenting on the repo rate. Hello.
Ashraf, I wanted to say, what seems to be happening here? It's, economies are seemingly owned by banks,
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say. And seemingly, the guy who's in charge of the Reserve Bank is really in favor of that. There's no way when everything is squeezing people out, you keep saying the repo rate at its level, it's okay. It just can't be. It can't be. Because it means now it favors people who are shareholders in banks. So must we all invest in banks and just enjoy high interest rates?
Okay, got that.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Well, we're going to move. It's news time now. I hear you. But, certainly no Reserve Bank governor, no other. They can't just act on their own. There's an entire collective that comes together to make decisions. The same with Treasury as well. You think that just one person can do what, even the president, they can't really do what they want. I think even if they have the privilege of appointing a cabinet, it's still done in consultation. And I'm talking about even before this year's collective multi-party coalition, or GNU. Right, more thanks for that. Appreciate those calls and comments. News headlines, 5:30. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The EFF leader Julius Malema says neither his party or its leadership have taken any money from the now defunct VBS Mutual Bank. The police minister's promised more police visibility in crime hotspots in the Western Cape. And the European Parliament has re-elected Ursula von der Leyen as the President of the European Commission. A full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M24 in Centurion is closed between Swartkorp's entrance and Alaric Road due to road collapse incident. In central Johannesburg, the M1 southbound is queuing towards Crown Interchange and the M2 westbound is queuing towards Crown Interchange. In Midrand, the N1 northbound has a veld fire reported with smoke affecting visibility near Olifantsfontein Road, and the N1 southbound has a crash reported after Allendale Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The M13 westbound in Hillcrest is queuing near the Cassie Road exit. The N3 eastbound is queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction, and the N3 westbound has a stationary truck reported at Ashburton. In Cape Town, the M7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound in Mitchell's Plain is queuing towards Samora Michelle. The M7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound in Athlone has a crash reported at Klipfontein Road. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, and the R44 southbound in Stellenbosch is queuing at Annandale Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Tumi, let's talk about Chippa United.
Yes, Chippa United have announced coaching changes for the upcoming 2024-25 season. Kwanele Kopo has been appointed the sole head coach for the season, with Thabo September assistant coach. Now, the pair were co-coaches last season, but now different roles, with Kopo to focus on propelling the team forward and September to focus on developing young talent from the Eastern Cape. The club's management believes that these changes will enhance the team's competitive edge and strengthen its ties to the Eastern Cape community. Meanwhile, September sees the club's new signing, Andile Jali, playing a significant role for the team from his home province this coming season.
Maturity, a lot of experience. Like I said, we've got too many young players on the sides and even in the middle. So he brings that to them. He will be like a teacher to them. He will be helping us as coaches on the field. He needs to command. He needs to. We know his legs are not going to carry him that far in terms of the league, so we have to manage him as well. So he's going to bring a lot of good playing kind of a team.
Elsewhere, Manchester United have signed Lenny Yoro on a 5-year deal. United have agreed £52 million fee with Lille that could rise as high as £59 million with add-ons. The 18-year-old is set to become Eric Ten Hag's second signing of the summer after the Red Devils. Now, in rugby, Henry Emmelman returns to the starting 15, whilst Abulele Ndabambi is set to make his senior Vodacom Bulls debut when the Tshwane outfit hosts defending champions, the Toyota Cheetahs, in round 3 of the 2024 Carling Currie Cup at Loftus Versfeld tomorrow. The Bulls are 2-0 in the Currie Cup after 2 games on the road, and the two sides meet at 5 p.m. with tickets starting at 50 Rand. Then Lucanio Am says that he's all set for his first test for the Springboks since last August. Will make his first test appearance for the year, as he's been dealing with the troublesome knee injury that he got last August. Now set for his 36th test cap in a midfield combination with Andre Esterhuizen, is eager to show why he is regarded one of the best in the world in his position and get back to his best for the Boks, and he says it's good to be back.
It's amazing. It's amazing for the group. It's amazing for individuals in the group. Where there's no complacency. You have to bring your A game. You have to be the best version of yourself. Each training session, each day, each game day, I think it's just healthy because we all want to grow. We all want to allow each other or ourselves, to be good, and it's amazing, man.
Just a quick update in terms of tennis, what's happening at the Hamburg Open. Second seed Holger Rune eased into the quarterfinals following a 6-4, 6-3 win over Marco Tringaliti. Then in Olympic news, security has been increased in the streets of Paris as athletes arrive for the Paris Olympics, with the opening ceremony just 8 days away. Organizers are also putting the finishing touches to the temporary sports stadiums at iconic locations such as the Eiffel Tower. Now, the first athlete athletes arrived today at the newly built Olympic Village. And from SA side, we do know that the Springbok Sevens left for the games yesterday, so they will definitely arrive soon. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. I'll have more on other sports tomorrow. Other than that, later on, we do have Top Sport. Or is it Sports Track? Top Sport.
Top Sport, yeah. Top Sport. So there's Top Sport with, and Brian Mufficking's hosting it. I think for the next week or so. There we are. But and there'll be obviously commentary on the special broadcast for the opening of Parliament coming up after 6. Just a quick one before I let you go. I mean, so this youngster, 50 million rand for an 18-year-old. They say is this huge talent. But here's a question which you may not even have an answer because I don't know it either. Yeah. What's the highest transfer for a teenager in South African football?
Yeah.
If you don't know, go and do some homework. I'd love to know. And if anybody knows, please tell me what's the highest transfer fee for a South African teenager in the PSL? And then maybe another one, South African sold outside the country. What is the highest transfer? Okay, that's it. You better say goodbye. Unless you've got the answer.
When last did we have a teenager sold to a big club?
I thought you were going to say when last did a teenager play for any club. Okay, but that's no. Let me keep quiet. More sports tomorrow. But
yeah,
your
I am
goodbyes.
doing Kapele.
Thank you. There we are. That's to me, right?
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
The Rockets and Umkhonto Kashaga will speak a different language from Siswati and Isindebele when they meet at the office made of grass. They both understand that only victory will impress their fans. This is the Mpumalanga Premiers International Cup 2024. Experience the thrilling encounter between the highly inspired TS Galaxy and Eswatini champions Mbabane Swallows FC on Saturday, 20 July at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. #We love it here. Tickets are available at CompuTicket. Proudly brought to you by the TS Galaxy Foundation and SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So what type of show do you have on a day when there's a repo rate announcement? I don't know. We'll certainly ask the person who ought to know. Jimmy Moya, as always, hosts the MoneyWeb Market Update. Jimmy, go ahead.
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to the listeners. We'll have to wait until Monday to get some detailed reactions on the repo rate announcement. We don't have a show today because of the opening of Parliament, but what we do have is a quick summary of how the markets closed out the day. It looks like it was a negative day across the board, whether we're looking at our equities or whether we're looking at other international markets as well. I'll do a quick summary of what's been moving the international markets as well. Asian markets were in a bit of a mixed territory, with Sydney down about 0.33%, and the Nikkei in Tokyo also down about 2.3%, but Hong Kong and mainland China both finished in the green, with Hong Kong up 0.2% there. European markets also mixed, with the FTSE and the CAC in the green, but the Dow finishing, or the DAX rather, finishing 0.33% in the red. US markets are in the red at the moment, with tech stocks leading that drive. Nasdaq is down 1.1%, the S&P down 0.5%. Markets obviously still quite nervous about all of the geopolitical tensions that are out there, as well as the conversations you've been having, obviously, around who will succeed Joe Biden, if Joe Biden will return, if he'll step down, what's happening with the U.S. electoral picture. That picture is going to continue to unfold until November, unfortunately, which means we're in for a lot more volatility as we get closer to election day. Looking back to what's been moving local markets, we had the all-share finishing in the red, about 0.1% in the red, with the top 40 as well. The resources counters were down 0.9%, industrials were up about 0.2%, and financials were down 0.17%. Quick look at the rand. It's currently at around 18 rand 16 cents against the US dollar, gaining about 0.1%. It's at about 23 rand 57 against the pound, and 19 rand and 80 cents against the euro. It's at about 12 rand and 22 cents against the Australian dollar. If we look at some commodities movements, gold at $2,466, around 0.5% in the green. Brent crude $84.80 a barrel, down about 0.33%, and both platinum and palladium are back below $1,000. We're going to be keeping an eye on these and other developments today and tomorrow as we wrap up the week, and hopefully we'll have some more answers around where to go from here as we head into a very busy second half of the year. But for now, Ashraf, back to you and the team.
Okay, perfect, Jimmy. Yeah, have like you have a long weekend coming up. Effectively, I'm just working on the days. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's the world works like that. Okay, let's pick up on some other issues. We'll take calls on interest rates right after this.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so we have Temba from Temba. Temba, hi.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Good talk to you. I'm glad you're calling in from that part of the world. We're not getting enough callers. We may get listeners from Rebecca, but we're not getting enough callers from, what they call GQ nowadays, right? So go ahead and tell us, yeah.
Thanks, Ashraf. Look, Ashraf, man, here is the angle. I'm not going to question the reasons or the resources that are leading into interest rates being kept at the high levels in South Africa as to what are those resources that are causing that in the market. The issue that I'm coming up with, I've never heard anyone questioning as to why are the banks beneficiaries of all the income generated because of the interest rate hikes. Why are we not, all of us, banks and the public, not contributing wholly that money to the public, that is into the government purse?
So how would you shift it around? How would you change what is the existing status quo?
We are able to tell as to when are the interest rates going up and what are the levels of incomes in the banks, because the banks are the sole beneficiaries of the system. And why are we not shifting that beneficiation directly into government?
Okay, well, there you are.
Because they can keep interest rates high as long as it's benefiting them, and it's as long as it's bending the political economy. You're keeping politics of the country on the side where you want them, and everybody else is getting bent, and while you are a beneficiary both politically and financially.
Okay, got that. Thanks for that call. Temba, thanks for that. I'm not sure whether it's benefiting them. I think, as you've heard, I'm not an economist, but as you heard from the governor of the Reserve Bank, it is such a, and not just him, but others, it is such a delicate balance, balancing multiple interests and putting it all together and delivering that to a country. So you can't be reckless about that. And I'm just saying it on the basis of that's my understanding of it all. As we had this chat with Auntie Pai, please listen to the podcast that we've had with him earlier today about what he said, and certainly what the governor of the Reserve Bank said in terms of his explanation for doing what he's done and leaving the interest rates or the repo rates in this case unchanged. Right. Okay. Further comments. We hopefully should be chatting, getting an update, looking at Parliament Solution Ido coming up shortly, maybe. But in the meantime, here's another one. Here's another comment on Mandela Day, which I'm glad that you've done that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Brian Mabai from Protea Glen. What I did on Mandela Day is like the Mandela Day on me is every day. Talk to my neighbors, greet them, understand their difference, know how the way they do their life, understand their condition. And the other thing, I did good for my family. Are you doing good for your family?
That's a beautiful way to end. I did good for my family. Are you doing good for your family? Think about that. Right, we should be getting an update just before we get to the end of the show. regarding Parliament. But let me also tell you, there's a special broadcast, so don't miss that. That's why there's no business show coming up today. The SAFM special broadcast on the opening of Parliament, hosted today with Bongiwe Zwane and Koketso Sachani. Do not miss that. Now, one of the issues has been talked about in Joburg, this implementation of, was it 200 rands or 250 rands that gets added onto your prepaid to maintain your prepaid. And there's been this furore about it, right? But there's also many others like, we simply can't afford it. So let me bring in then Derek Lodwick, who's a resident of the suburb of Claremont in Johannesburg. And Derek's got some strong views on this issue. Hi, Derek.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you, man?
I'm very good indeed. Good to talk to you. Right. So Claremont in Joburg. That's just very close to Newclay. If I'm trying to get my the geography correct. Okay. What's happened? There's this electricity surcharge, and you're not happy with it, right?
Yeah. Ashraf, these people are really not fair to us pensioners and the old people. We, on a normal good day, cannot afford normal lights with this prepaid. These prepaid meters is more of a burden than a blessing to us. You know what I'm saying? So on that alone, people are struggling, battling to even put food on the table. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden, nobody told us. They say they spoke and they've had the public debates and all about it, but nobody told us anything. Suddenly, this month, we were hit with this huge 230 rand, actually, fee.
Yeah.
So the question was, they say that if the houses or the whoever only can pay from 6,000, if they're earning 6,000 rand or more, will only pay. Under 6,000 will be exempt of all of this.
Yes, so what they call indigent people, yeah, right?
Yes. Now, we pensioners, we don't even see near 6,000. And yet they're taking our money off.
And do you get a pensioner's discount? For prepaid? I don't know.
Nothing.
No?
Nothing. We
Really?
don't get no. They say they if they put us on the database, which one of the councillors in our meeting on Sunday said he'll bring out some city council people here to sign us all up to put us on the database, and then they'll give us this indigent home kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they only give you 10 kilowatt hours, right? Now you tell me, what can you do with 10 kilowatt hours? 10 kilowatt hours is about a half a day's light for free, right? Some people are saying they give you 30 kilowatt hours. Okay, that's fine. But then that's also 2 days, maybe.
Okay.
We got built-in heaters in these houses, these city council old age home houses. We've got heaters built in the wall for us, but you can't use it. You use it.
You can't afford it. It'll go through the roof. I get that.
$1,000. You know what I'm saying? So we are extremely angry with this. We actually want them to remove these meters and put us back on Eskom's normal lights. And there we got no problem.
And what did they say to that?
They haven't got back to us yet. For real, still talking to them, and they adamant that this charge is here to stay.
You're talking about Fidel Hafferty. I think she's written a piece about just you guys in the Daily Maverick. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we had a meeting with her on Sunday. A big meeting we had there. We had the councillor and the community and all of that. She wrote a nice piece up for us where I also spoke and a couple of the old people spoke. And she says when she approached, I don't know what's this guy's name there in council, city council, he said, no, this thing is here to stay. So what does that do for us old people, the elderly? It's not right, man.
Well, I agree. It's not right. How do you generally make ends meet? I mean, if you can tell me, beyond just the electricity issue, just in general.
My brother, let me tell you in general. No? Yeah, I've seen people, and this is not lying, this is lived reality. I've seen people literally living and dying in poverty. Me, I'm a bricklayer. By trade. I work to build this country. This is what makes us so angry. I got a lot of building tools that we got to pawn. We pawn stuff, our tools, to put food on the table. There was a lady that I spoke to some time back, last week or so. She pawned her gas stove. She hasn't even got a gas stove.
Sure.
If the lights go off, like we're getting load shedding, she's done. She hasn't even got a gas stove to make coffee, tea, food, whatever.
Okay, Derek, I have to leave it at that. Thank you for your time. But I think it's good that we spoke to you because, when people talk about poverty and absolute struggle and a life of hunger, I mean, we tend to forget because you look at Parliament, you look at the fanciness there, and you reflect, in your community in Claremont, sort of west of Johannesburg, near Nuclear, the reality. And it's not just your community. We can say ditto for many other communities around the country. So thank you for your time, Derek Lodwick, Claremont resident, speaking on the electricity surcharge.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063-408-8863 and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
We were talking about football transfers, like teenagers in South Africa. What's the record, considering that Man United have just bought a player for about £50 million and is 18 years old. So Brian Mabaya has commented. Thanks for that, Brian, from Project Glen, saying, Ashraf, speaking about the teenagers or young transfers from South Africa, it's recently the signing by Club Bruges, that's a club in Belgium, if I understand it. It's 13.9 million rands for Shandray Campbell, 18 years old, from SuperSport United to Club Bruges. So that's a substantial amount of money, certainly, right? Maybe not in Europe, in euros, but for South Africa, that is huge. Can you think of any other big transfers concerning South African youngsters, like big money transfers? I'd love to know. Okay, let's get to the opening of Parliament. Well, it's happening officially at 7 o'clock, but the people have flocked into the building, City Hall. There's not Parliament because of that rebuild that's taking place. But what are the expectations? Sanusha Naidu with me, who's a political analyst from the Institute for Global Dialogue. Sanusha, good chatting to you here on the National Pulse. Hello.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, one of the things I've been putting forward to our listeners today is like saying something like, complete the sentence, the speech from President Ramaphosa that I'd like to hear is, and I've left it blank. I'll put the same thing to you.
I think there's a lot of things we want to hear from President Ramaphosa this evening. And of course, the big question would be, what is this roadmap for the next 5 years of this government of national unity? How does it set the tone? How does it set the kind of vision? But more importantly, I think what would be some of those articulations? And remember, this is a vision. This is a GNU that has a whole lot of new ministers within this government of national unity. We have parties like the DA, the IFT, the Patriotic Alliance. We have returning parties like Good. And all of this is part of the architecture and the ecosystem of what the next 5 years would be like. And I was trying to rack my brain around what is the difference between a State of the Nation address that the president does every year in February, and what is the state of parliamentary address that comes in after an election once you've elected a president and a cabinet has been established. And I was just asking a few of my colleagues here to educate me, because I was kind of conflating the issues, and I suspect we all do that in a way that we make the assumption that this address is actually about the cabinet and what the cabinet is going to do, but it's also about parliament. It's also not necessarily as my one colleague said to me now, and really got my head wrapped around this. He said it's not really about the reflection of the last 6 months or the last 3 months. It's really setting a tone for the next 5 years. But what happens in that is that Parliament also has to find its feet. There are new members that have come in. There's a whole new party that's here that's now been. Just give me a party. They have 58 members, and of course it's about in the last 2 weeks. There's also the unfinished business of the budget.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yeah,
debates that happen, and all of this is part of that kind of ecosystem and architecture. So it's also about Parliament and giving Parliament a sense of the direction that.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
As a country. So I liken it that what has happened in the last, since May 29 is like, 10 people have been put into a room and they've been talking behind closed doors for the better part of a month or so. But now it's up to one of them to come out and say, this is what we've been talking about and this is where we want to go. He has to do that, isn't it? He has to share insights in terms of the chemistry of the different political parties that make up the GNU, and therefore give us a sense of how, despite the differences, how this collective will move together. If it doesn't do that, then my thought would be that this address would be worthless. It has to give us that.
Ashraf, I like the way you put it across. It's the chemistry of this cabinet, and it's the chemistry of the people that make up this cabinet, both in terms of ministers, deputy ministers, and of course, let's not forget the bureaucracy. We cannot ignore the bureaucracy of both the ministries, within the ministries, and of course how these DGs and other bureaucratic architecture and engagements are going to happen. So it's really that chemistry, and it's what's the chemical reaction that's going to be important. I think you're right in many ways to say that it's also about setting that kind of tone. And we know that up until now, the president has always spoken about this idea that this is a GNU and not a grand coalition of two parties. He talks about unity. He talks about the role that each of the political parties within the GNU have to play. But I think it's also something that we have that I picked up just this afternoon, listening to some of the DA personnel, and they were actually saying that the president was quite engaging. That there was a sense of having that kind of optimism, and there is a bit of an optimism. There's a spring in the step, for example, with the Minister Ramakgopa on the electricity energy. He keeps warning us that it's not necessarily that we have reached a point where there's not going to be no more load shedding. He keeps talking about the pricing of electricity that becomes a throughput cost for the poor, and he says this is something that needs to be addressed. So they're setting those right tones. Similarly, in terms of the Minister of Police talking about, it's not about visibility, but it's about the institutional architecture of understanding what policing is about. So there's a number of these dynamics. But I think what's going to happen is that come next year, February 2025, when the president has to come back to City Hall, if City Hall is the venue again for the State of the Nation address, the people are not going to look at that in a sense and say, oh yeah, you had a GNU, they had to find their chemistry, they had to find their feel, their fit, they had to work, they had to hit the ground running. They're going to want to ask, what is the results of this GNU?
Absolutely.
Let's
leave it at that. I think it's an important point, Sanusha Naidu. Thank you for your time. Political analyst from the Institute for Global Dialogue. In many ways, it could be like Ramaphosa is going to be this used car salesman, and he has to sell hope, if you can understand that. But just ending with that issue of the chemistry, I think it's not an unfair question to say today and moving forward we'll find out whether this chemistry that's been concocted will deliver a Dr. Jekyll or a Mr. Hyde? You think about that. We have a special broadcast coming up after 6 o'clock on the opening of Parliament, hosted by Bongiwe Zwane and Koketso Sachani. So please do stay with that. And lots of reaction even after that all throughout the evening. I have no doubt about that. First things first, it's the news at 6 with Greg Hose.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Malema denies VBS allegations and more police visibility in crime hotspots. Good evening. The EFF leader Julius Malema says neither his party or its leadership have taken